Chapter 629. Bows and crossbows are hidden, saddles and horses are hung, hooves are torrential, angrily trampling Jin Chuan. Life is on the blade, soul is on the bottom, arrows are like a storm, wind is like a storm. Ask the enemy if they are afraid, their bodies are in the yellow sand, blood is spilled. Looking at the Jiang Qiangua pagoda from afar, he sneered and flicked his hair. Perhaps it was because of the rain, but Kumyuk had been in a bad mood for the past 2 days. Looking at the sky that was not completely clear after the rain, she always felt a chilly wind blowing, even if it was in the tent. In fact, he knew what he was worried about. He was afraid that he would follow in the footsteps of Tatatu. 20,000 people against 7,000 people, it did not seem to be a lot, but the other side only had a little more than 10,000 people. At that time, the Tang army was still in low morale and did not have much rest. At this time, the Tang army's morale was so high that his own army could not compare with it. Moreover, they hid and rested for such a long time. It was true that the general was the courage of the soldiers. It was true that the same soldiers became different after changing the general. His own army also had 20,000 people, and the logistics department of 6,000 people sent out did not lose too many people. But why did he not dare to completely follow the order to launch a battle line to kill? Was he afraid? Was he afraid of a 9-year-old little girl? Kimu Kahu was not surprised that the other side killed so many people on his side with such a small number of people. The most powerful generals in history were even more powerful than this. He could not understand how a 9-year-old girl could be like those famous generals. If she was on his side, he would feel that the little girl fought a battle pleasing to the eye, but she was not on his side. Reporting, General, the scouts of the 1st and 2nd teams of the Wind Cavalry encountered the enemy and retreated. Only 21 people out of 300 escaped. Just as Kamu and Ku, who were thinking about how to follow the order without losing too many soldiers, a messenger ran in from outside the tent and reported to them. Kimu Kahu did not seem to have any reaction after hearing it. He looked at the scenery outside the tent motionlessly. The messenger did not dare to disturb him and stood aside to wait. After a while, Kimu Kahu said, "No wonder I always felt a gust of cold wind. It turned out that I was targeted. It seems that the Tang army is ready to attack my army. Well, tell me, what kind of enemy did the 1st and 2nd teams of the Wind Cavalry encounter?" Reporting, the brothers who came back said that they encountered about 3,000 Tang soldiers. They were lightly armored and their arrows were like flying locusts. When they came face to face, a large number of brothers around fell. Fortunately, the road was muddy, so they managed to escape. The messenger was also worried. He was afraid of encountering the main force of the Tang army and that little girl. Kumu and Ku who began to ponder and muttered, 3,000 light cavalry. This means that they are the ones who ambushed the logistics. The main force of the Tang army is still on the mountain. Mud is good. The messenger listened attentively. He didn't know what to do with the mud, so he could only wait for the general's order. Pass down my order. The 6,000 men of the 8 battalions that were sent to reinforce Tatagaritu are to return immediately. The 6 battalions will split into 6 groups and spread out the distance between each other. We will search as we return. Gather all of our cavalrymen. Equip them with light armor and crossbows. Wait for orders. Find Sang Chichi. Kumu Ku, who originally did not want to let the headquarters go up, but now that the enemy had their eyes on them, they had no choice but to go up, even if they knew who would be at a disadvantage. After the messenger left, Kumu Ku, who laughed sinisterly and muttered to himself, "Little girl, this time I'll let you know that not everyone can let you come and go as you please." Wang Wan, who had defeated nearly 300 Tufan soldiers, led her troops and left. She ran into a forest and started to get busy. Shui Yun flew down and told Zhang Yingshan the news on the mountain. She then flew away and continued to monitor the situation on the mountain. She also sent an order. Zhang Xiaobao took out the small pot on his back and lit the fire. He was busy making food for Wang Wan. He was only making food for her. Fighting a war was also very mentally taxing. She had to replenish her nutrients. He poured oil and slowly boiled the sugar. After a while, the sugar changed color and the fragrance floated out. The surrounding soldiers who were looking at them inhaled the fragrance. However, no one came forward. No one wanted to share the food. This was a meal for the general so that he could lead them to victory. Zhang Xiaobao took out pepper and a few other seasonings and stir-fried them in the pot. He looked at the cut meat at the side and sighed. "AI? It's not easy to get some pork here. I'll just make do with the wild pork. I've already marinated it with white pepper, starch and wine. The fragrant red braised meat needs to be cooked slowly. It will only taste good after 2 hours." Wang Wan leaned against a tree and rested while thinking about what the enemy would do. Occasionally, she would look at Xiao Bao, who was making the red braised meat for her. She revealed a happy smile. During this period of time, Xiao Bao had taken the time to make good food for her. He would do whatever he was told to do. He never felt that he shouldn't listen to a woman just because he was a man. The surrounding soldiers were also envious of General Wang. Although men didn't cook much, the little young master's food was really delicious. Just by smelling it, it was fragrant. When they heard the people from the logistics camp calling him, it seemed that the little young master had a higher status at home. They didn't expect that he would not fight for power with General Wang and would do whatever he was told to do. This kind of man was not easy to find. Yes, a woman like General Wang was also not easy to find. When the little young master was at home, would he be bullied by General Wang, who could command him? As everyone was thinking, one person unconsciously said it. Zhang Xiaobao was watching the fire. When he heard this person, he turned his head and asked, "You haven't married yet?" This person was shocked and thought that he was doomed. Why didn't he guard his mouth and let the little young master hear it? He quickly shook his head and replied, "No, my family is poor. I can't talk about a wife." "Oh, don't be afraid of being poor. We are poor, but we are not poor. You fought with your life in Tubo. When you go back, you won't be poor anymore. For those who fought with my little madam, if they died, their families would double the compensation. If they were alive, they would also receive a large amount of money. When the time comes, I will help you find a wife. You have to work hard," Zhang Xiaobao said gently to this person. Okay. When this person thought that he would have a wife in the future, he immediately felt embarrassed. He lowered his head and blushed. But in his heart, he felt that something was wrong. He had clearly offended the little young master. Why would the little young master be kind enough to find a wife for him? Zhang Xiaobao did not expose him. He looked at this person carefully and remembered this person. If this person could really go back alive, he would find a wife for him. The kind that was good at fighting. Let's see if this person would still badmouth him. Another person at the side joined in and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Little young master, I already have a wife at home. I don't know if I can get a concubine when I go back. My cooking is not good at all. I don't care if you get a concubine. If you have the ability, you can get one yourself. I will teach you how to sing a song, okay?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at this person and said, Okay. I will sing and you will remember. Maybe I will say goodbye. Won't come back again, do you understand? Do you understand? Maybe I'll fall down and never rise again. Do you still want to wait forever? Zhang Xiaobao sang the song with a slightly altered melody to the man, and the people around him also listened. Little young master, I thought about it and decided not to find a concubine. The one at home makes clothes that fit me very well. Everyone in the village praises her. They also say that I am very lucky. I won't marry. If you don't marry, then rest. You still have to kill enemies. Dignity needs to be exchanged with blood. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he added some firewood under the pot. He turned around and went to Wang Wan. He squatted down and massaged Wang Wan's head. At this time, Wang Wan was almost done thinking. While enjoying Zhang Xiaobao's massage, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, you sang really well just now. Why don't I change the military songs that I learned before and teach them? It can also improve their morale." Okay, But the premise is that you have to make more money so that you can give enough money to support the army. In the end, the Tang dynasty couldn't raise an army and there was chaos. The soldiers listened to who is who. Let's give the money to Xiao Li and let him take it out. Then the army will listen to him. I like him more. He is very tough when dealing with the outside world. If we follow him, we can fight a few more wars. In the future, your family will eventually be separated. You can't always follow my family. You need to build your own family. Your younger brother will be supporting your family in the future. You need to have a good reputation so that you can protect him before he can start his own family. Zhang Xiaobao thought that most of the content of the lyrics was different from what it was now. For example, the love of the motherland. The people now listen to who raised them, especially the soldiers of the various regional commanders. This is not good. They need to centralize power. Money. Everything needs to be done with money. They also need to use Li Longji's name. Otherwise, they can start an uprising. Wang Wan also agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's suggestion. In the future, they will fight whoever is not satisfied. Weak countries don't have diplomacy. They need to occupy more land and get more resources first. You can decide how to earn money. This time, I am prepared to cripple Tubo. I will make sure that they will not be able to recover within 10 years. Kamukahu's 6,000 men have retreated. They are retreating in different battalions. What is he trying to do? Zhang Xiaobao asked the information he just received when he heard about the war. What else can he do? Shui Yun is not back yet. When it comes back, let it go to Kamukahu's side to take a look. He must be gathering the cavalry. He wants to use 6,000 men as bait to waste our horses and arrows. It is too obvious. He is smarter than Tatamatu. He knows how to use bait. He probably knows that we can only use light cavalry to fight against light cavalry. Wang Wan was very familiar with this kind of thing. There were many examples. For example, during the tank battle at Station 2, they could stop their own tanks from moving and let the enemy constantly look for suitable places to attack to deplete the enemy's fuel. Would a tank without fuel still be a tank? Zhang Xiaobao was relieved when he heard that Wang Wan had a plan. Compared to Wang Wan, Kamukahu was still inexperienced. By the time Zhang Xiaobao finished cooking the red braised pork, everyone had rested enough. Wang Wan had a good meal and ordered the 3rd Cavalry Battalion, Light Cavalry, 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, 1st 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 Battalion. 1st Battalion, 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 3rd Battalion, 1st 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 Battalion. 1st Battalion, 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 1st Battalion. Chapter 630. Following Wang Wan's order, the 3,000 light cavalry split up and swept out like the wind. Out of the 6,000 Tibetan 8 battalions that acted as bait, other than the one in the front that was unscathed, the other 7 battalions were all attacked. The light cavalry took the upper hand and shot out a wave of arrows. They did not wait for the other party to react and just left. After a while, they would come back again. Every time, they would take away 30 to 50 lives. The 7 battalions of the Tibetan army were already beaten to the point that they could not take it anymore. At the same time, they felt sullen. They recognized the arrows that were shot at them. They were all from the logistics department at the foot of the mountain. It was not a good feeling to shoot their own people with arrows. Each battalion only had 750 people. Seeing that their numbers were slowly being whittled down, they could not do anything. The light cavalry really came and went like the wind. If they were to run back to the main camp from here, they would probably die. Every battalion sent the little bit of cavalry they had back to report, hoping that the reinforcements would come sooner. In the end, the battalions simply stopped running and formed a defensive formation. It was very effective. Every time they were attacked, they did not lose too many people. Soon, Kimu-Kahu received the news. He was also reluctant to send 6,000 people to kill. However, if he did not do this and let 3,000 people escape, it would be more troublesome. If he killed 3,000 people, it would be 3,000 people. After hearing that all the 7 battalions were attacked, Kimu-Kahu finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that the Tang army would hold back. Order all the cavalry to set off. Kill. Send someone to tell Sang Chi-Chi to hurry up. This time, I'm not only eyeing those 3,000 people, but also leaving a part of the main force of the Tang army in the mountains for me. Humph. Scheming against the unsuspecting. I want to see how big of a wave that lass can still create. The messenger quickly passed down the order. Kimu-Kahu put on his armor and prepared to meet Wang Wan personally, although he felt that it was embarrassing to put the lass in such a high position. The troops set off. Kimu-Kahu gathered 4,000 light cavalry and rushed forward. They were prepared to attack the Tang army that had lost their horses and arrows. Kimu-Kahu, whose team only had 5,000 people. As for the other 5,000 people, they had already been sent out by him. This time, he wanted to give the Tang army a fierce blow. Beside Kimu-Kahu, there was a person who was supposed to be in charge of the army. When he saw that all the soldiers in the headquarters had been mobilized, he worriedly said to Kimu-Kahu, "General, that little girl Cuckoo is also not an ordinary person. Should we join forces with the other 2 troops? Or do you want someone to send a letter and recruit the 2,000 or so people from Tadashimatu on the mountain? There's no need. Could it be that you want my Tubo's 67,000 people to move out at the same time to capture a single girl and deal with her 10,000 people? The other 2 divisions can't possibly move against me either. That way, I'll get the most credit, so how could they be willing to do it? The more than 2,000 people of Tata Kidu on the mountain had no use for them. They were already scared out of their wits. This little girl didn't know her limits. Did she really think that she was invincible just because she had a few pimples with Tata? If she was given another 10 years, she might be able to become a famous general of her generation. However, I won't give her this chance. Kimu-Kahu vetoed the suggestion of the person beside him. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't want to find other people to join forces with him. However, just like what he was thinking, other people wouldn't be so cooperative. They might even be waiting for him to return empty-handed. This time, the person beside him didn't say anything. He could only hope that the general's plan would succeed. However, he didn't know why, but he felt that something was wrong. If that little girl Cuckoo was really powerful, wouldn't she be able to see that the 6,000 people were a trap? The Tang army's light cavalry didn't care about what others thought. They listened to General Wang's orders and carried it out very seriously. Even if it consumed a lot of horsepower and arrows, they still persisted in attacking and harassing. Even if they could only kill 10 people at a time, they would shoot the moment they entered the shooting range. They definitely wouldn't give the enemy a chance to counterattack. By the time Kimu-Kahu, whose 4,000 light cavalry arrived, half of the 7 battalions had already been killed. Just like that, 2,600 people were killed. When the 4,000 light cavalry arrived, a loud and clear eagle cry sounded in the sky. The Tang army's light cavalry immediately began to retreat and meet up with Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao's group. They started to run towards the north. However, their speed was obviously not as fast as before. The horses' noses were constantly blowing out white gas. The 4,000 light cavalry who came with a purpose didn't care about their own injured people. They urged their horses to chase after them. Each one of them had their bows and arrows ready. When they were within the shooting range, they would shoot. This distance was not a normal distance. The other party's horses were still running forward. Furthermore, they were in the wind, so they had to be very close to them. The Tubo people's shooting range was not enough. However, the Tang army's shooting range was enough. Each of them continuously turned around and shot without aiming. They let the Tubo people completely understand how difficult it was to chase after the light cavalry. When the Tubo cavalry had more than 400 people, they finally caught up to the shooting range. Just as they were about to shoot, many ropes suddenly popped out from the ground in the middle of the group. The Tang cavalry in front of them also took out something from their pockets and threw it on the ground. It was a triangular nail-shaped wooden block that they made when they were resting in the forest. When the Tubo people's horses stepped on these wooden blocks, they couldn't run anymore. Although it wasn't as powerful as iron, it wasn't too bad. Those who were caught by the ropes directly jumped down from the horses or were pressed down by the horses. There was no way for them to escape. Half of the Tubo cavalry were directly taken down. The remaining half didn't need to chase after them. They were all carefully controlling their horses to walk the maze. At this time, a rain of spears suddenly shot out from the forest, followed by shouts of killing. Shui Yun shouted excitedly in the sky. It was very clever and didn't come down to do any sneak attacks. It was also afraid of being shot by the arrows. Perhaps it knew that it had completed a very important task and sent the 4,000 people here to prepare. The remaining Tubo cavalry knew that they were finished. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also thought so. They didn't turn back to continue attacking. They led their people to rest and prepare for the next battle. At this time, Sang Chi was running with all his might with 5,000 light infantry. He had received the order to set off in advance. He bypassed the main battlefield and advanced towards the villages where the Tang army was hiding in the east. He wanted to ambush the main force of the Tang army that was retreating. He ran until he was almost out of breath, but he didn't dare to think about resting. Speed was the most important thing in war. If he didn't make it in time because of laziness, then he didn't need to live anymore. The position in the east was indeed good. He didn't see any Tang army scouts, nor did he find the bodies of his own people killed here. Sang Chi felt that he was about to make a great contribution. But he didn't know that if he didn't run to the north and continue to go east, he would have found the 4,000 people of the Tang army that retreated to Pangzhou. Among them, there were more than 1,000 local people. With his 5,000 people, he could definitely easily take down these 4,000 people who didn't have much fighting power. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan rested for a while and recovered a lot of strength, most of the 4,000 pursuing cavalry had been dealt with. Only the slowest ones at the back were lucky enough to go back and report. Every dead person was replaced and the horses that could still be used were brought back. Of the 4,000 chasing horses, only 700 were still usable. The rest were finished. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan led people to cut the horse meat. They also filled the first pile of water bags in the nearby river with water. They collected the bows and arrows of the Tubo people and distributed them to those who didn't have them. After all these things were done, Sang Chi troops also ran into the village for a short rest. They were waiting for an ambush in a while. Wang Wan didn't give him a chance to rest. She led everyone in the direction of the village. When Shui Yun first found this group of people, she and Xiao Bao were frightened. They thought that this group of people went to chase after the retreating logisticians. Kumu Kahu didn't slow down with his 5,000 people. They had already arrived at the place where the 8 battalions were located. There were 6,000 people in the 8 battalions. Now, there were only 3,000 who could still fight. More than 2,600 people died, and the rest were seriously injured. It could be said that the losses were heavy. Kumu Kahu would be lying if he said that he didn't feel bad. But when he thought that the cavalry in front of him had wiped out the enemy's cavalry, he and Sang Chi would work together to severely injure the rest of the Tang army. That would make up for the losses here. He believed that he could ask where the main force of the Tang army was when he caught the people of the light cavalry. After gathering the remnants of the 8 battalions, Kumu Kahu led the team and continued to move forward. He also asked everyone to run. This way, they could move faster and avoid the Tang army from escaping in advance. But what he waited for was not the news of the victory of the cavalry, but more than 100 cavalry who escaped. After a series of inquiries, Kumu Kahu gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to break. The main force of the Tang army actually appeared. They even cooperated with the light cavalry to destroy his cavalry. They even used tripping ropes. Was it a precaution in advance, or a plan to deal with his cavalry this time? At this time, Kumukahu was like Tatatu at that time. He had no idea. If it was the former, he could immediately lead people to kill. If it was the latter, should he chase? It turned out that not being able to guess the enemy's tactics on the battlefield was so uncomfortable. Chase, no matter what, I have to see the main force of the Tang army. It's best to see what that little girl looks like. I have to figure it out. Kumyuk made up his mind. The group continued to run forward. After an hour, he saw the corpses of people and horses. Needless to say, they were killed by spears one after another. The blood gathered together and flowed into the river in the east, overflowing the pits left by the horses. When the Tubo people saw this scene, they felt a chill in their hearts. How ruthless a 9-year-old girl was. It was obvious that the people on the ground were the last ones to be stabbed. It was the same for the horses. None of them were left alive. In a more spacious area, someone even used something to write the mark of a pit. The blood was drawn in and formed words, Tubo words. Tubo plotted to destroy the Yangtze River embankment and directly killed 1655 people of Wangjiang in Suzhou. Today, I ask you, Tubo, do you still dare to do it? Seeing such words, all the Tubo soldiers were speechless. They finally understood why the Zhong family sent out such a killing god. It turned out that it was to avenge the people who were killed by the spies they sent to Wangjiang in Suzhou. Wasn't this too vengeful? Something that happened so far away actually came to Tubo to look for it? Revenge for the smallest grievance. Ruthless, really ruthless. Now, they finally knew how powerful the Zhong family and Wang family were. They would remember this name. Kumukahu could no longer describe his feelings. Was it fear or anger? Provocation, a blatant provocation. Being questioned by a 9-year-old girl using the blood of their own people in such a condescending manner. This was a challenge to a country with one person's ambition. No matter what he thought in his heart, no matter whether he answered or not, he was at a disadvantage and had no face left. Chase, I want to tear her apart with my own hands. Chase after her and fight it out. I want to see how they can escape. The anger in Kumukahu's heart was finally suppressed by fear. He was a general. If he could swallow this insult and let others threaten his own country, wouldn't he still be human? More than 7,000 Tubo soldiers also thought the same. If they retreated or stopped, wouldn't it be telling the 9-year-old girl that they didn't dare to do it? If that was really the case, they should just find a rope and hang themselves. It was a shame. There was no need to mention the grievance in their hearts. More than 7,000 people ran madly following the tracks. When they reached the front, they were all dumbfounded. The 5,000 people led by Sang Chi-Chi were being surrounded and shot by the 7,000 cavalry. From the looks of it, more than 1,000 people had already fallen. Kumukahu finally understood one thing. The Tang army that he was thinking about just now was prepared with ropes and specifically targeted him. Half of the bait he sent out was eaten. The 4,000 light cavalry could be said to be completely annihilated. Right now, this army that was supposed to be used for an ambush was found and killed by the other party. It was impossible for something like this to happen suddenly. It must have been planned by the other party. At this moment, the Tang army that was surrounding and killing suddenly stopped. A group of people came out from the group. In the front were 2 very cute children. When they were a certain distance away, the little girl immediately started to shout the Tubo language that she just learned. Kumukahu, right? Today, I killed your soldiers to take revenge for the people of Wangjiang. Let me ask you personally, do you still dare to do it? Tell me, do you dare? With a pew sound, 2 streaks of blood spurted out from Kumukahu's nose. His body swayed and fell to the side. Everything in front of him was pitch black. When the Tubo soldiers heard this, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This was too much of a bully. If they had a rich vocabulary like Zhang Xiaobao, they would definitely curse at the top of their lungs F***ck your mother, and then charge over to kill. However, they did not curse like that. They all cursed their own words and charged over without a care for their lives. Retreat, slowly wear them down. I don't believe it. When Wang Wan saw that the other party was charging, she turned her horse around and ran. The Tubo people did not care about the speed of the other party as they chased after them with all their might. In the end, without Kamu and Ku Hu's command, the 7,000 Tubo people who came later and the remaining 2,500 Tubo people who were surrounded and shot down by Wang Wan's 7,000 cavalrymen. The method was very simple. Run in the direction of the wind and then charge at the place where the arrows were not lethal. Then, with the help of the wind and inertia, they would shoot arrows and not give the other party a chance to retaliate. Without Kamu Kahu's command, the Tubo soldiers chased with all their might. They were determined to stop the Tang army. When the Tubo soldiers had chased for more than 30 li, they were already out of strength. After many people were killed, Kamu Kahu, who was supported by others, woke up. When he saw the situation in front of him, he immediately ordered his troops to retreat and hide in the village. They formed a defensive line and were not allowed to attack. This battle lasted until night time. The Tubo soldiers were only left with around 6,000 people. The Tang army also ran out of arrows and piled up their horses. Only then did they retreat. Kamu Kahu entered a commoner's house and was in a daze. 20,000 people were plotted against by the other party step by step. They were only left with around 6,000 people. It was over. It was over for him. He clearly did not underestimate the enemy and even made arrangements. How could he not be able to outsmart a little girl? Could it be that she was the reincarnation of a military god? With such a cute and obedient little face and such a rosy little mouth, why were the words that came out of her mouth so infuriating and her actions so ruthless? Kamu Kahu was not the only one who did not understand. The Tubo soldiers who felt that they had escaped a calamity would also dream of a little girl with a face full of smiles. She personally held a sword and looked at her brothers beside her one by one. After killing one, she smiled and asked if they dared to do it. As a result, countless people were frightened awake. Just as the Tubo soldiers were thinking that they had nothing to do for the night, a dozen people ran down from the mountain and finally found Kamu Kahu. They reported to Kamu Kahu, who was still unable to sleep. The 2,400 people who had been recruited on the mountain were attacked by the main force of the Tang army at night and were completely annihilated. They were released and said that the main force was here. They wanted to pass a message to the general and ask if the Tubo soldiers still dared to come. Kamu Kahu fainted again. Perhaps it was because she had experienced it before. She woke up faster this time. The first thing she did when she woke up was to kill the people who came back from the mountain. Kamu Kahu, who was unable to sleep, was patrolling the temporary camp. At around 6 o'clock a.m., the sound of horse hooves could be heard. Countless fire arrows flew into the village. Night attack. The Tubo soldiers could only drag their tired bodies and prepare to face the enemy. In the end, the enemy shot dozens of people to death and burned down a bunch of houses before retreating. The Tubo soldiers continued to prepare to sleep. However, at around 5 o'clock a.m., the Tang army came again. Fire arrows flew and then retreated. Just like this, Wang Wan ordered her men to seize the time to rest. At the same time, she ordered people to take turns to harass the Tubo soldiers. Kamu Kahu clearly knew this tactic, but he could not think of any way to deal with it. If he did not do anything, the enemy would definitely see the opportunity and send a large force to suppress them. He could only go along with it. He hoped that the other two divisions would come to support him soon. He had already sent out a messenger and hoped that it would not be stopped. When the sky was about to brighten, the Tang army finally left and did not continue to harass them. At the same time, the other two divisions also used their fastest speed to send a message, telling them to hold on for one more day and that they would come to support them. Kamu Kahu, who had relaxed, ordered a portion of his men to be on guard outside. He did not want to let the rest after the Tang army launched a sneak attack. In the end, an hour later, 3,000 Tang soldiers suddenly appeared in the village. They raised their swords and killed the Tubo soldiers who had just fallen asleep. At the same time, the Tang soldiers outside rushed back to attack from both inside and outside. When the sky was bright, the attack ended. Kamu Kahu was relatively lucky. He rode a horse and led his 300 personal guards to break out of the encirclement and escape. The remaining people became the offerings for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to worship the people of Wangjiang. The two of them brought all the Tang soldiers to temporarily build a sacrificial altar. They kowtowed 3 times and prayed to the 1,000-bone pagoda at Wangjiang in Suzhou. Following that, Wang Wan left behind some words and led everyone to the yellow sand in the north. When Kumu Kahu and the other 2 divisions of reinforcements rushed back, they saw that all of their men had died there. There was also a sacrificial altar, and there was also a line of words written with blood. To the souls of the people of Wangjiang, I ask you again, Tubo, do you dare to come again? The people who saw these words in the scene gave the 9-year-old Wang Wan a name, Demon Fiend. When the Demon Fiend was angry, red blood would flow for 1,000 miles. At the same time, they gathered the other 2 divisions of people to inform the other divisions behind them and chased after the yellow sand. They had to take revenge. Chapter 631. As Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao led the army north, the people of Pengzhou quickly learned of many things. Pengzhou's government army had urgently recruited 120,000 people. Anyone who was willing to join the army would be given a share. They pretended to be ready to attack Tubo at any time, but they restrained themselves. When the people in the various strongholds in Wing Prefecture heard that the child of this official, who was like a brother to them, was fighting with the Tubo people, they took out the little money they had just saved and insisted that Zhang Zhong buy food for the government soldiers so that they could go and rescue the child as soon as possible. In addition to money, the adult men in the various strongholds also requested that Zhang Zhong organize a logistics camp to go kill the enemy together. Now, the logistics camp's combat ability had been recognized by the local people as being more powerful than the vanguard. Zhang Zhong persuaded and refused, but he didn't dare to tell others the truth. Pengzhou's government army was just putting on a show. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo returned, those who had to farm and those who had to have children would do so. It wasn't to the extent that ordinary people would go to war. Zhang Zhong's days were much better now. With the reputation that his son and daughter-in-law had made, the merchants who were originally hesitant to be invited happily came to Yizhou to cooperate with them. They were afraid. The new information that the spies sent back from Tubo made them worry that Zhang Zhong's daughter-in-law would come back and find out that they didn't cooperate with Zhang Zhong. She would lead the troops to wipe them out. They now believed that the Zhang family and the Wang family were the type to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Based on the abilities of Demon Fiend, they were certain that he didn't need to bring any powerful troops. The usual guards of the Zhang family and Wang family were enough. Wouldn't dealing with people like them be child's play? The pigeons flying from Yizhou to the capital were clearly not enough. The capital had already sent 3 cages of pigeons in case of emergency. This time, Gao Lishe brought the news back during the morning court session. Li Longji even temporarily stopped the court session to wait for Gao Lishe to do something else. None of the officials in the court objected. Even LV Yenzhua, who had always been at odds with Zhang Zhong, remained silent. Everyone wanted to know if Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had returned, or if they were still hiding there, waiting for an opportunity, or if they had been caught. Gao Lishe ran back and forth. This time, he didn't have the time to take a look. He didn't know what was going on in front of him. As soon as he returned to the hall, he looked at Li Longji and waited for him to speak. Previously, Li Longji had slightly lost his composure in front of the 3 officials. This time, in order to avoid such a situation, he first took a few deep breaths to calm himself down before instructing Gao Lishe, read. Gao Lishe slowly opened the letter in his hand. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva to soothe his throat, he read, "This official, by Go, Yao Chongqin, the commander of the logistics camp in Yizhou, Great General Cuckoo, after defeating 13,000 Tufan soldiers, hid in a few villages near the Duchuan River. He formed a group of 3,000 light cavalry and attacked Kumu Kahu's troops. Kumu Kahu led the troops to encircle and annihilate them. With 8 battalions of infantry as bait, 4,000 light cavalry attempted to devour them. Another 5,000 infantry hurriedly marched around the village, vowing to destroy the main force of the Tang army on the Jinchuan front line. Kahu personally led 5,000 officers and 4,000 light cavalry to hold the rear. One day later, 8 battalions of infantry successfully lured Kahu, exhausting his horses, dispersing his arrows, and exhausting his soldiers. When the 4,000 light cavalry arrived, Kahu's light cavalry was already exhausted. When he read this, Gao Lisha's hand trembled. His throat suddenly became dry. He didn't make a sound and looked down. The people in the court felt their hearts skip a beat. It was over. Li Longji, who had long been mentally prepared, still couldn't control himself. His expression changed as he angrily said, "Read." "Yes." Only then did Gao Lisha realize that when he didn't make a sound and continued to read, his expression became a lot better. By this time, Kahu had led the light cavalry to kill more than 2,600 of the 8 battalions of infantry. When they encountered the enemy's light cavalry, they ran with all their might, luring the Tufan's light cavalry to pursue them. Later on, they ambushed the 4,000 Tang army on the mountain, tripping the horses and throwing spears. When Kahu led 5,000 men to arrive, the 4,000 light cavalry were all gone. Then they drew blood on the ground, saying that the common people of Wangjiang in Shuzhou had died miserably. This disaster was attributed to Tufan. Would Tufan dare? Furious, Kahu led his troops to continue the pursuit. At this time, Kahu led 7,000 light cavalry to kill 5,000 Tufan troops who took a detour. In front of the two armies, they asked again if Tufan dared. Kahu was so angry that he fainted. He seized the opportunity to attack and kill, forcing Kahu's troops to enter the village and defend. In the middle of the night, they turned to the river and killed Kahu's more than 2,000 men. Then they attacked in batches throughout the night. At dawn, the 3,000 Tang warriors who had been lying in ambush in the tunnel under the village joined forces with Kahu's troops to attack from the inside and broke Kahu. Kahu took advantage of the chaos to escape and led the other 2 troops to rendezvous. Blood flowed like a river in the village. Bodies everywhere. There was also a sacrificial altar, offering sacrifices to the common people of Wangjiang, asking again if Tufan dared. Tufan's 2 troops pursued again, pointing their swords to the yellow sand. Kahu was a demon. Someone wrote a poem, "Tender face is sweet and beautiful, laughing and talking slaughter the world, corpses piled up like a river, asking June dared." The more Gao Lisha recited, the better his mood was, the faster he recited. After he finished reciting, he was thirsty and snatched the cup specially made by the Zhang family from Zhang Shua's hand. He unscrewed the lid and gulped down a mouthful of water. Zhang Shua did not have any intention to snatch the cup back. He was stunned for a moment before he said, Good kill, good question, let's see if Tufan still dared?" "According to what you said, Kahu and Xiao Bao have already led their men to kill more than 35,000 Tufan soldiers. If they could come back, they did not come back and instead led the 2 Tufan troops of 40,000 men to kill in the desert?" The people who reacted nodded one after another. It seemed that Kahu had not killed enough. Li Longji also picked up the cup of tea beside him and drank it. He usually did not drink when he was in court, but now he was afraid that he would reveal it because of his agitation. He used this as a cover and hid his face behind the cup. However, his heart was in turmoil. He did not expect that it was indeed that little lass, Kahu, who was giving orders. This little lass was really capable, and her heart was really ruthless. She did not show any mercy when she killed people. He also had portraits of her and Xiao Bao here. These 2 were very good-looking children, especially when they smiled and showed 2 dimples. How could they kill until they vomited blood and corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river? How much hatred did this little lass have to become like this? The commoners of Wangjiang should be satisfied. In the future, if Zhang Zhong were to become an official somewhere, no one would dare to make a move against the commoners of that place. The de Montfien's reputation was built on human lives. Her delicate face was sweet and beautiful, and her laughter could slaughter the world. It was indeed so. Good, when she came back, he would not let her go out and raise her. When she grew up, wouldn't she be even more powerful? At that time, when there was a war elsewhere, if she really could not handle it, he would send her out. When Li Longji thought of this, he calmed down and passed the cup of water to the side. Wei Wei looked at all the civil and military officials in the imperial court with a smile, waiting for them to calm down. All the officials in the hall were also digesting the news that they received. It would be a lie to say that they were not excited. More than 35,000 Tubo people were killed, and the Tubo soldiers were toyed with. Especially when they were asked, it was truly too delightful. Of course, there was also one person who was feeling afraid while feeling happy for the current dynasty. That person was LV Yenzhua. He knew that he had done a lot of bad things behind the scenes. Although he had never succeeded, he had still done it. Today, he even said that the emperor gave Cuckoo and Xiao Bao too high an official position. If Cuckoo were to know about this? Alright, this matter has been settled. When the army returns in triumph, we will discuss the matter of the rewards. Where were we just now? Was it that Cuckoo and Xiao Bao were given too high an official position? Then what position should they be demoted to? Or was it like what LV Qing said, that the two children should not be given official positions? LV Qing, say something else. At this moment, Li Longji opened his mouth and looked at LV Yenzhua. This official is here. LV Yenzhua had no choice but to stand up. He hated himself for saying this today. Wouldn't it be fine if he said this a day later? Wang Wan had made such a huge contribution. Even if she was given an official position, no one would be able to say anything. Otherwise, she would be sent to fight against the Tubo army. LV Yenzhua, who stood up, looked around and coughed. Your Majesty, what I mean is that we should wait for them to grow up before giving them official positions. They are still young. Young? A general by the side widened his eyes and asked. They are not young either. That, Gon Luo was proficient in politics at a young age, and Xiang Lu was a Kong Shi at the age of 7. They are not young, but this official is afraid that I am the monarch of Lu country and the Qin king? That I can't protect Xiao Bao and Cuckoo? That the Tubo army is the one that killed Xiang Lu, and that Cuckoo can't return in the end? Li Longji's mouth fell again as he stared at LV Yenzhua. LV Yenzhua's heart tightened. He knew that he had said something wrong. If Cuckoo and Xiao Bao really didn't return, he would be the first to suffer. Wasn't he saying that the emperor was as useless as the monarch of Lu country, that he couldn't protect the capable people of the country? After Li Longji asked this question, he didn't wait for LV Yenzhua to explain and immediately ordered, issue an edict, order Jiannan to mobilize the elite troops to attack Jinchuan and Gada City. Let me occupy those two cities. Why can't I protect the two children who fought for the country? Even if I have to use people to fill in the gaps, I will bring back Cuckoo and Xiao Bao. There is no need to discuss the matter of the two of them being mere empty officials. Is there anything else? Li Longji was really angry. Was he that kind of muddle-headed and incompetent emperor? He was waiting for Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to help him more in the future. Not to mention that the two adorable children had an expert to teach them. Even if they were as monstrous as Xiang Lu, he still had to protect them. That was only for the monstrous talents of other countries, not for Great Tang. The officials began to discuss other matters. All of them tried their best to avoid the Zhang family and Wang family so as to avoid being implicated. LV Yenzhua also kept quiet. If he continued to find trouble, he would be the first one to be torn apart. The first thing that was sent out was the imperial edict. Li Longji was originally prepared to fight with the Tubo army. Originally, he wanted Guotu to launch a sneak attack, and after the Tubo army attacked, Jiannan would mobilize the army to launch a successful counterattack. Since a large portion of the Tubo army was destroyed and a portion was lured away, it was the perfect time to launch an attack. At the same time, it would make things easier for Cuckoo. He believed that Cuckoo would definitely be able to lead the troops to defeat the Tubo army and return victorious. He heard that the two children were good cooks, and perhaps he would have the opportunity to taste it personally. Chapter 632. This time, the news was received from Wing Prefecture after the first two pigeons had flown for half a day. Perhaps the second pigeons had flown faster, and the first pigeons had arrived not long after. The matters in the imperial court had already been discussed, but the court had yet to be dismissed. It was a good opportunity to see if there was any new news. It shouldn't be bad news. Even if they couldn't win against Wan Wan, they could still escape. The two people that were sent after her could escape with the eagle. Sure enough, it wasn't bad news. In the letter, it was written that Yun Shuifei had made arrangements after arriving at Pengzhou. He wanted Pengzhou to take over the logistics and Tubo's 4,000 people, as well as provisions, and send the commoners to Wing Prefecture. At the same time, he wanted the imperial court to go to Sanshui County to find the person who raised the eagle with Zhang Ying. He wanted this group of people to go to Pengzhou, and when they arrived, they would cooperate with Pengzhou to make a feint attack against Tubo. This would slightly restrain the Tubo's armored cavalry. Then, he would transfer 10,000 elite troops from Jiannan Circuit to secretly go to the villages with tunnels under the cover of the feint attack. Don't forget to go to Wing Prefecture to get things when you go there. It was the charcoal and vegetable oil that had been collected some time ago. Bring them to the villages and wait for him to come back. Hide well and don't be discovered. When he returned to the army, they would cooperate with him. He wanted to send a general who didn't need to be too capable, but had to be obedient. When the officials in the imperial court heard this news, some of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Cuckoo, this little lass, was too formidable, right? She had already started making arrangements for the following matters. She was really bold. She actually wanted to ambush Tubo at that place. Didn't she already use that village once? Wasn't she afraid of being discovered if she used it again? Didn't she start buying the vegetable oil and charcoal a long time ago before Zhang Zhong arrived? She even wanted to bring it to the villages. Could it be that she would need it at that time? What was it for? How was Cuckoo planning to use 10,000 people to ambush them? Li Longji didn't expect that Cuckoo's arrangements would be so far away. She had already prepared provisions in Wing Prefecture, and even asked him to go to Sanshui County to find the eagle. She also made arrangements to send Pengzhou to make a feint attack. If this was the case, wouldn't his previous decree disrupt Cuckoo's arrangements? This arrangement was no longer a tactical one, but a strategic one. Should he take the lead, or should he listen to the little girl? Li Longji found himself in a difficult position. At this moment, LV Yenzhua felt that his opportunity had come. He looked enviously at the officials in the imperial court who had beautiful cups. Thinking that no one in his family had ever given him such a cup, he felt that he could build a good relationship with the Zhang family. Thus, he stepped forward and said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, there's something that I don't know if I should say or not." "If you don't know, then don't say it." Li Longji was still angry with LV Yenzhua, so when he heard LV Yenzhua's question, he didn't give him any face at all. LV Yenzhua was stunned for a moment. That wasn't right. What followed should have been, "It's fine." Why did it change? "Your Majesty, may I be so bold as to say something?" LV Yenzhua shamelessly ignored Li Longji's warning. Seeing that the higher-ups didn't object, he continued. "This subject thinks that Miss Cuckoo is a rarely seen general. She must have her reasons for making such arrangements. There is no harm in following her instructions." "Then did we issue the wrong decree?" Li Longji asked. "No, how could your Majesty be wrong? Cuckoo isn't wrong either. This subject thinks that Cuckoo had Pengzhou feign an attack because she was afraid that the generals leading the army would be at a disadvantage. After all, the Tufan cavalry was mobilized, so she had Falcon follow. She was worried about the other generals and didn't understand them well. She was worried that our court would suffer too many casualties. Does your Majesty agree?" LV Yenzhua continued to explain to avoid being misunderstood. Li Longji thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes." All the civil and military officials in the imperial court also admitted that they couldn't find a general as powerful as Cuckoo. There were generals who could win battles, but they couldn't find one who could kill so many enemies with so few casualties. It wasn't like in the past, when there were still many famous generals. Seeing that the emperor agreed, LV Yenzhua continued, "However, our court can't always let Cuckoo lead the army every time there is a battle. Wouldn't our court have no one? Your Majesty can send troops from Jiannan Circuit." At the same time, send 10,000 elite soldiers to follow Cuckoo's instructions. As for the deployment, Cuckoo is a famous general and will adjust accordingly. If your majesty agrees, this subject will personally go to Sanshui County to train the falcon to coordinate with our court's march. This subject's neck was stiff last night and has already had someone check it. The effect wasn't good. This subject also wants to go to Day Hospital to have a look. In order to ease the atmosphere, LV Yenzhua shook his head. He really felt that he couldn't move. All the officials in the imperial court laughed. Even Li Longji didn't have a sullen expression like before. In that case, Minister LV will be tired from the journey. Li Longji also wanted to see if Cuckoo could immediately adjust according to the layout. In his mind, Wang Wan was already a famous general. A famous general naturally understood that the situation was not constant, and the water was impermanent. In any case, the danger would be smaller if the troops were sent out. Even if the matter was settled, LV Yenzhua found an opportunity to ease the situation. Of course, he wouldn't take a carriage. There was a boat, and the river wasn't frozen yet. Wang Wan was still leading people to escape. This time, she was satisfied. After killing so many people, when the news spread to Suzhou, the people there would definitely cry and then be very happy to avenge them. The message from the eagle was written by Zhang Xiaobao. He also had his own arrangements. Wang Wan didn't expect Zhang Xiaobao to have such a plan on the way to Yizhou. Riding on the horse, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, I found that you are really suitable for logistics. You have arranged everything that you can think of and that might happen. Otherwise, you would have to do it now. I will reward you by making me red braised pork tonight." Women are starting to rebel when they have the ability, right? You want to reward me by making you food? Good idea. There are still 40,000 people behind us. I don't want to be buried in the sand. Zhang Xiaobao was very happy. He didn't have nightmares at night because of killing too many people. Wasn't it just a few people dying? His hands were also covered in blood. In the future, when he became a local official, who would dare to use the people to threaten him? The surrounding soldiers were also more relaxed. Although close to 1,000 people had died in this battle, they had still fought to show their might. What was the use of being a soldier if they didn't fight? Only when they killed their enemies until they became obedient and didn't dare to look for trouble would they be able to live a stable life. A peaceful life was built with their lives. Just like the song that General Cuckoo taught, "You don't want to be a soldier, I don't want to be a soldier. Whoever comes will protect the motherland, who will protect the home." Which country was afraid of death? Which country's people were waiting to be bullied? Wang Wan didn't care about what Zhang Xiaobao said. In any case, the food she ate had to be prepared by Xiaobao. Others suffered when they were fighting, but her food was not bad. She made a handful of wild vegetables, and Xiaobao could wrap them into a box and fry them. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao mention the arrangements, Wang Wan was not worried. This was her field of expertise. She said, "Take it slow. There are still a few days before we enter the desert. They won't dare to send light cavalry." That's good. I was worried about the lack of horses. All in all, we only have a little more than 8,000 horses. There are still 1,000 people who don't have horses to ride and take turns to run on the ground. Their speed is a drag and they are tired. I know what they are thinking. They want to force us into the desert. They will block us outside and look for an opportunity to destroy us. This time, I will let them know that our army is a strong army that can fight in all weather and all terrain. Be prepared. Hunt more prey. I have use for it. Wang Wan did what she said. She sent people to see if there were any wild beasts around. If they encountered some small village, the poultry and livestock raised by the people were also fine. If they used weapons to exchange with the people would be very willing. The two groups following behind did think so. They didn't dare to send cavalry to chase and kill. It was easy to be schemed against. But it was easier to drive the Tang army into the desert. They would see what they could do when the time came. Kamu had no right to make a decision. In fact, according to his idea, they should fight now. Even if the Tang army died, it was still a little bit. How could 40,000 people lose to less than 10,000 Tang soldiers? But the army belonged to others. He couldn't command it. He was only allowed to go with the troops because they pitied him. Kumu Kahu gathered his remaining soldiers. In total, there were less than 1,000 people. He barely managed to form a battalion. Half of them were injured. They were given to him by the two groups. It turned out that Tatatatu's soldiers were taken in. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to form a battalion. After following behind for 2 days, Kumu Kahu had enough rest. As long as he didn't think about the deaths of so many of his men, he would be like a normal person. He always wanted to take revenge for the deaths of so many of his men. Seeing that the Tang army in front was not moving fast, he felt that this was an opportunity. Hence, he found the leader of the other group, Lufu Tuta. He discussed with Lufu Tuta about borrowing some soldiers. He didn't need a lot. He just needed 3,000 cavalry. He brought his men and ran to the front to attack. If he did this, at least the Tang army's deployment would be disrupted. Otherwise, why would the Tang army be walking slowly in front of them? Could it be that he and his men were so scared that they didn't have the courage to go up against the 9,000 soldiers? After Lufu Tuta heard Kumu Kahu's idea, he decisively rejected it. He meant that Kumu Kahu, how dare you say such a thing? Don't you know how your own soldiers are being taken care of? Kumu Kahu returned to his tent gloomily. Looking at the 700 soldiers in the battalion, he shook his head. He could only give up on this idea. He felt like he had lost an opportunity, but Lufu Tuta was tempted. The reason he rejected Kumu Kahu was because he didn't want Kumu Kahu to succeed. If that happened, Kumu Kahu would be able to make up for his loss. That wouldn't do. The reason why he let Kumu Kahu follow was because he had fought with the Tang army before. Even if he lost, he would still understand the Tang army in some aspects. Thinking about Kumu Kahu's plan, Lufu Tuta decided to follow it. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao were still busy with their preparations when Shui Yun flew to Pengzhou. It would probably take another 2 hours before it returned with news. Very quickly, night fell. Zhang Xiaobao baked spring pancakes for Wang Wan, braised some wild vegetables with salt, stir-fried some shredded meat with rabbit meat and made a bowl of soup with some bird's egg that he picked up. Although the ingredients were few and simple, the taste was not bad. Wang Wan rolled up a pancake and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "When we go back, why don't we open a small shop and find 2 people to be workers? I'll be in charge of the accounts and you'll cook. We have a big shop. Why don't you say that I'll be in charge of the accounts? I'm familiar with this. If I don't do it well and just lose money, won't I die of exhaustion if the food is delicious?" Shui Yun is back. Let's see what it says. Zhang Xiaobao watched Wang Wan eat. He was happy that Wang Wan was enjoying it. Of course, he felt that it would be better if Wang Wan could watch him eat. At this time, Shui Yun flapped its wings and landed. It rubbed its head affectionately with Zhang Ying and cried twice. No one knew what it was trying to say. They just watched Zhang Ying stroke Shui Yun's head and feed it something. Then, he took off the thing tied to his leg. "Little young master, little miss, this is a letter from master." Zhang Ying could read quite a few words and knew who it was just by looking at the cover. He said as he passed it over, "My father, what happened to my father? Did something happen in Wing Prefecture?" Zhang Xiaobao took the letter and was puzzled. "Maybe he wants us to go back early. Xiao Bei and the others probably miss us. Let's take a look." Wang Wan stuffed the last bit of the cake into her mouth and said vaguely. Zhang Xiaobao was also a little homesick. He didn't ask for much, as long as he could see his family every day. That kind of happiness was something that ordinary people couldn't understand. He opened the letter, scanned it from beginning to end, and threw it to Wang Wan. He tapped his face with his hand and thought about something. Wang Wan hadn't read the letter yet. When she saw Zhang Xiaobao's actions, she knew that something had happened. Someone had been marked by Xiaobao, and it was a very serious kind. The consequences wouldn't be good. She took the letter and read it. The first part was written by parents to their children. They said that it was cold, so they should be careful outside, eat more meat, and go back early. If they couldn't win, they should run. Don't foolishly fight with others. Everything at home was fine. The second part was written about recent events. It said that the people of Wing Prefecture were very cooperative. Merchants from other places also came to invest a lot. It was estimated that after the new year, they would be able to build a foundation here. Even if they weren't here in the future, the people of Wing Prefecture could continue to live a good life. They harvested quite a lot of fruits and used them to make fruit wine. They also harvested grain. Recently, the price of grain was much higher than before. In the past, a bushel of millet cost 16 copper coins. Now, it had risen to 24 copper coins. Perhaps, the price would fall after the autumn harvest. Their family did not lack money, so they accepted the expensive grain. It was important to plan early to make wine. The growth of hemp this year was good. Originally, they thought that the price would be cheaper, but it also rose by half. Many merchants here heard about the matter of set breeding and began to buy livestock and poultry. Fortunately, their family had bought a lot of mules in advance. Should they buy more? Or let the people of Wing Prefecture raise chickens in the mountains, just like in Sanshui County? This was what was written in the letter. It didn't mention who was scheming, who didn't cooperate, or what kind of decree the imperial court had sent. It seemed very normal. Wang Wan was puzzled. What was in the letter that made Zhang Xiaobao do such a scheming action? After waiting for a while, Wang Wan saw that Zhang Xiaobao was still meditating. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "Xiaobao, are you in trouble? You've never thought about things for such a long time before." Zhang Xiaobao shook his head, took the letter, and read it from beginning to end. He threw it aside and said, "Troublesome, it's really troublesome. If I were at home, it would be easier. I ran so far away and can't do it at any time. Say, in an economic war, how slow is slow, and how fast is fast. When it's slow, it can be done for a year and slowly plan. When it's fast, it's a race against time. If it's slow, it can't be done. If it's a step late, it can't be done. Isn't this troublesome?" "Ah, I asked you to read the letter. Did the letter say that it's an economic war?" Wang Wan took the letter and read it carefully. There was nothing wrong with it. It was normal for the price of grain to rise. Now that the autumn harvest was coming, it was the time for the last round of price increases. Then, the price would drop a lot. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, "Yes, an economic war, and it's coming fiercely. If I'm not wrong, it must be someone from Tubo behind the scenes. He's a master. Why haven't I heard of such a talent in Tubo? If I were in Wing Prefecture now, I wouldn't be afraid. Can he overturn the heavens? Why can't I see it?" Wang Wan didn't doubt Zhang Xiaobao's judgment. When a person like Xiaobao operated, it was like fighting a war. It was hard to predict, but it was hard to figure out what was wrong with the ordinary information in the letter. After asking, she saw Zhang Xiaobao's eyes looking at the night sky in a daze. Wang Wan thought about it again, but she still couldn't figure it out. She nudged Zhang Xiaobao and asked, "Don't tell me that's your perception?" "Perception? Oh, perception is sometimes right, and sometimes wrong. I believe in perception, but I believe in data analysis more. Let me tell you. Look, the price of grain has risen. It's normal. It's the last price increase before the autumn harvest, and then it should fall. Fortunately, we can make a profit in the process and buy the farmer's grain at a low price. The price of hemp has risen. It's normal. Hemp is also a crop, and it's spread. Ordinary people don't see any problems. After all, my father's reputation is there. Looking at it separately, everything is under control, but it's not normal when they are put together. In the simplest way, the oil companies in our country are carrying out a unified rectification in order to obtain greater profits in the future, so as to improve the oil refining technology and standardize it. What do you think the consequences will be? Zhang Xiaobao asked Wang Wan after analyzing a little. Consequences? Of course, the price of refined oil will rise. But this behavior is wrong. The rectification can't be unified. It needs to be done in batches. Otherwise, it will have a bad impact on society. Isn't it obvious that they are shouting at the state? Wang Wan followed Zhang Xiaobao's train of thought. That's right. The reason why the oil companies are doing this must be because of the political faction behind them, especially when they're about to change industries. This is because it doesn't just affect refined oil, but also the overall economic environment of a society. The stability of prices is supported by productivity and the transportation industry. The unified rectification of the oil companies is using their own losses to threaten a certain faction. What if they restrict electricity? The transportation costs increase, and the energy consumption increase. Just these two factors at the same time can cause the price of social goods to rise by more than 40%. Zhang Xiaobao analyzed the things that might happen to him and Wang Wan at that time, and then said, "What I want to say now is what my father wrote in the letter. Our plan to rearing livestock includes livestock, but only pigs. The rearing of sheep and cows is still under experiment. My father said in the letter that the price of livestock and poultry will rise, and so will the price of grain and hemp. The problem lies in my father's words. Fortunately, my family bought a lot of mules in advance. Tell me, how do we rearing mules? Mules can indeed give birth occasionally, but normal people can't use mules for rearing mules, right?" Wang Wan nodded. Indeed, who would raise mules for? Could it be that they were not preparing to give birth? If it's according to what you said, it's really the Tibetans behind the scenes. They want to attack our transportation industry, and through this, make the price of goods in Jianan City rise, and make the people unable to make a living? Wang Wan shivered. She knew the power of economic warfare. For example, Zimbabwe in the past, and the Soviet Union before that. No, if that's the case, I really don't care. What's there to attack in the transportation industry? We don't have trains, cars, or planes here. We don't need animals to pull the goods. Don't we still have boats to transport them by water? Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she suddenly realized that it was impossible to do things that were not in her field. When it came to war, Xiaobao could only think of ways to replenish his supplies. He was unable to give timely and reasonable commands, and he could not come up with too many tactical arrangements. But when it came to economics, it was definitely Xiaobao's world. When a letter was sent over, he could see the traces of war in it with just a glance. Then tell me quickly, what are they trying to do? Do you care about it now? Wang Wan humbly leaned beside Zhang Xiaobao and asked with a smile. She understood that whoever was in the field would speak, but she did not believe that Xiaobao was really afraid. As expected, Zhang Xiaobao laughed contemptuously and said, "Him? I'm just too far away, and it's not convenient for me to give commands. He dares to use such petty tricks on me? When I tried to play tricks, he would have already died. Don't laugh. Cuckoo, shouldn't we be more proactive? The best would be to launch a sneak attack on the logistics of the Tibetan army. The Tibetans have no money, they can't afford to fight. If my guess is correct, the imperial court must have made a new move, and it's bigger than what we thought. At the very least, the move in Pengzhou is obvious. War is a battle of money, the Tibetans don't want to lose. Some of them have already noticed that something is wrong, so they want to make money. The purpose of the acquisition is not to restrict us, but to develop them. That's why I said that the person behind the scenes is not bad, he can be considered a little talent." "What a pity, Sage. I know what you want to say. You want to say that it's a pity that we met you, so stop bragging. Come, I'll give you a flatbread, I'll eat less. The taste of your flatbread is not bad, it's just that it's not chewy." Wang Wan leaned on Zhang Xiaobao and rolled a flatbread for him, then gave it to him and said, "It's broken, how do you want me to make it chewy?" "It's fine if you give me some big rice noodles, or I'll make you steamed noodles tomorrow. After fermenting, it's better than the steamed noodles now. And, let's do it like that, I'll make soup dumplings for you." Zhang Xiaobao took a bite of the flatbread. It was indeed like what Wang Wan said, the taste was not good. Chapter 633. Wang Wan kept feeding Zhang Xiaobao the pancake until Zhang Xiaobao opened his mouth and said, Tubo realized that they don't have enough money and can't afford to fight, but they don't want to admit defeat. This is mainly because of you. Don't think that you only led 10,000 people back and forth to fight, but Tubo mobilized a lot of people. They can't keep up with the logistics. They are also waiting for the autumn harvest, but they can't not come after us. At the same time, they have to guard against the main forces of the Tang army. If it was in the past, they should be the ones to collect more taxes from the people of their own country. But this time, a person who thinks that he is powerful suddenly appeared, so they came up with a plan. If I were to name this plan, it would be a contract selling operation. In fact, it is almost the same as cash flow. As long as there is a sum of money, they can use this money to buy assets, such as houses or food. When they are buying, they can discuss and give a portion of it. When they don't have any other money, they don't want this money. Then, through the operation, they can change this agreement slightly and be able to borrow money from other banks. If it were me, I would sign 2 contracts. One is the successful transaction contract, and the other is the subsequent repayment contract. It is just to trick people into trusting me. I think that person is doing the same, unless he has more money to operate. Then what is the use of this kind of false proof of assets? It can be exchanged for more cash. Wang Wan still understood this point. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, Yes, it is to use this to exchange for money, and then use this money to buy local food and livestock, causing the price of everything to increase. But he shouldn't have bought mules. Does he think that everyone is a fool? Does he think that I am a decoration? The problem now is, how many things has he bought and how much money has he used to pawn these things? The more money he has, the more food and livestock he will buy during the autumn harvest. It will create a situation where the price of goods doesn't fall even though it is the autumn harvest. How can it not fall? How much can he buy during the autumn harvest? Wang Wan agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's analysis but did not agree with the latter part. How could it fall back? Businessmen pursue profit. How many businessmen can see through such a plan? When the price of goods in a certain region increased, they would not think of suppressing it. They would work together. That person from Tubo would not say that he was from Tubo. If he wanted the merchants from Great Tang to cooperate, he would look for relevant merchants to cooperate. The simplest way to put it was that when foreign hot money was hyping up the domestic financial market, how many businessmen in the country could fight to the death? How could there not be domestic funds adding fuel to the fire? I'm sure that after the autumn harvest, the price of grain will rise instead of falling. Moreover, it will give people the impression that the price will continue to rise. As long as the people can still live, they will cherish the grain and not sell it. The Tubo people will increase the hype and achieve their goal. Their goal is, that's to sell the grain from Tubo, as well as the livestock and poultry from Tubo. Once he sells them all, he won't want the money he invested in them anymore. Everything will turn into bubbles. Many merchants from Great Tang who do the same will suffer losses. Great Tang's commoners who don't grow grain will suffer losses. Yes, those who grow grain will also suffer losses. The merchants have 2 choices. One is to raise money to continue raising the price of goods. The other is to sell at a loss. If they choose the former, it is easy for trouble to happen. Some of the citizens do not have grain and it will cause social unrest. If they choose the latter, once they sell their grain, the price of all the goods will fall again and again. Then, the Tubo people will be able to buy them at a very low price. Am I right? Wang Wan did not wait for Zhang Xiaobao to finish his words and analyzed. Yes, that is the case. However, this is not the final goal. It is not a peaceful time now and we can only rely on pure economic means. What do you think will happen when the Tubo people suddenly attack Great Tang? Zhang Xiaobao continued. Yes, it will make things very difficult for Little Li. After all, the cost of transporting grain from outside is much higher than the value of the grain itself. If transportation is still not possible, then I know what to do. The military is to serve politics. Wang Wan had completely thought it through. She picked up the binoculars and went out to look at the terrain. Zhang Xiaobao did not care about Wang Wan. He held his chin and knocked on his face. After thinking for an hour, he muttered to himself, "Since that is the case, then let's let the Tubo people see what an all-around war is. Let them understand that there is no distinction between the front line and the rear. Let's use both the military and the economy together." After muttering to himself, Zhang Xiaobao started to write something. When dawn came, he asked Shui Yun to send it to Pengzhou. Pengzhou still looked like they were ready to go to war. They did not know that someone was fighting an economic war with them. Even Zhang Zhong did not expect that a letter he wrote would decide someone else's fate. Until 2 days later, when a horse that was about to die of exhaustion rushed over, Zhang Zhong saw the news that was delivered and realized how great of a thing he had done. He wrote a letter that had a huge impact on the current situation. After changing his handwriting and copying it again, Zhang Zhong sent the letter to Old Man Pai and the other two. He immediately went to make arrangements. This time, his son was in charge of remote command. The people in the inner courtyard of Zhang family and Wang family were mobilized and were very busy. Even Jiang Wang family, who usually only cared about her own family's matters, had no choice but to stand up and cooperate. "Husband, it seems like I have to write more letters to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo in the future. It's just taking in a mule, but Xiao Bao actually saw through so many things. If it was someone else who said this, I would definitely not believe it, but Xiao Bao is right. This time, my family will have to take out a lot of money first. So be it. It's better than being schemed against by others. Chow, you have a good son and a good daughter-in-law. Otherwise, we would definitely be at a disadvantage this time." At this moment, Zhang Zhong had already put aside the shock of receiving the news from before. If it was him who did it, he really wouldn't know what to do. However, with his son's plan, he wasn't afraid. He knew his son's ability, so he just had to follow his instructions. After Jiang Wang family heard Zhang Zhong's words, she said with a rosy face, "If it weren't for Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened to us. The people of Tubo are indeed not ordinary. Unfortunately, they met Cuckoo during the war. When they were calculating the economy, they were discovered by Xiao Bao. Then, they can forget about it." While Jiang Wang family and Zhang Zhong were speaking with confidence, Old Man Pai and the other two people were looking at the news sent by Zhang Zhong and fell into a certain state of mind. They didn't know that it was Zhang Xiaobao who was helping them remotely. They thought that it was the experts from the Zhong family who found out that something was wrong. Zhang Zhong only sent them a part of his son's analysis. It didn't include the response at the back. Therefore, Old Man Pai and the other two people were very anxious after seeing this analysis. "What should we do? What should we do? Should we send people to catch the businessman who raised the price? I don't know if it's true or not, but it should be true. The Zhong family has never done anything wrong." Old Man Chong was the most anxious. The matter at the front line wasn't over yet, and something else had happened here. Old Man Pai carefully read the analysis 3 times before saying, "The Zhong family is indeed not ordinary. After seeing what is written here and thinking about it carefully, it really is so. There are actually such capable people in Tubo. Fortunately, we also have the experts from the Zhong family. Otherwise, this time, we would have suffered a big loss." How did the Tubo learn this kind of economic knowledge? Could it be that it's that game of Monopoly? There's quite a lot involved in that, especially the top-level stuff. If that's really the case, then I can only let more people from my dynasty go and have fun. I can't just stop it, and I can't stop it anyway. Old Man Bai sighed at the fact that there was someone more powerful on his side. Otherwise, wouldn't he have been tricked by the Tubo people? If others were only analyzing, he knew a lot of things. There was news that the Tubo people were preparing for the autumn harvest. Not only did the commoners have to work, but it was also said that some of the tribes had to come out to help as well. What did this mean? It meant that the Tubo people were indeed lacking things and were waiting for this year's autumn harvest to be good. In the past, the Tubo people were facing difficulties, but at that time, they could only think of using war to obtain things. This year they actually used economic means. Old Man Yao also frowned his white eyebrows. He looked at the analysis and understood the Tubo people's general plan. He didn't doubt it, but analysis was just analysis. He didn't write down any specific countermeasures. Could it be that there was no way? He really didn't want to believe that the experts of the Zhang family couldn't come up with a countermeasure. How was that possible? If there was really no countermeasure, what was the point of analyzing? Thinking about the experts of the Zhang family, Yao Chong said to Old Man Pai and Old Man Chong, "Why don't we ask Zhang Zhong and see what kind of countermeasure he can come up with?" "Yes. Ask Zhang Zhong. As long as Zhang Zhong comes up with a countermeasure, it will be the expert's countermeasure." Old Man Chong agreed. Old Man Pai started to write a letter. "I have to tell this to the emperor and see if the imperial court can come up with a countermeasure." Just as the three old men were preparing to send a letter to the capital, Zhang Zhong's memorial was sent out. It was also a pigeon, but this time, it was from his family and not Old Man Chang's. Zhang Zhong really hoped to have an eagle like Shuiyun. He didn't need to waste pigeons. Shuiyun only needed to let it remember what sign was placed in a place and it could fly over and back by itself. Pigeons couldn't. Once they flew over, they would be gone. They needed to be put back in a cage. Wherever the pigeon nest was, the pigeon would fly there. However, there was only one Shuiyun. It was a true companion. It could send letters, monitor the enemy, and cooperate to kill the enemy. There were more than 100 eagles in Sanshui County, but none of them could catch up to Shuiyun. Now, Shuiyun definitely couldn't be brought back. Without Shuiyun, his daughter-in-law would definitely feel very uncomfortable. By the time Old Man Pai's letter was sent out, Zhang Zhong's pigeon had already left for a long time. This time, Zhang Zhong followed his son's idea and exposed his son. However, he used a test story to cover up the expert of the Zhang family. When Zhang Zhong was waiting for the merchants to arrive, Old Man Pai and the other two arrived first. Just like what was said in the letter, as long as he waited, they would come over and ask. Then, they would cooperate with him. It was indeed correct. "Yongqing, why do I feel that the tea we drank last time tasted wrong? Don't tell me you used other teas to make up the numbers?" Old Man Pai spoke as soon as he saw Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong thought to himself, "You can keep pretending. My son already mentioned that you would come over." He even summarized the words he said at the beginning. One of them was to mention the tea leaves first. Fortunately, he didn't mention fishing. "So it's Master Bai. How can the tea be bad? How about this? I'll go and brew the tea now. If I find that it's different from yours, you can take my tea away. That way it can't be bad, right?" Zhang Zhong also learned to be tactful and followed along. Old Man Pai nodded. When he saw Zhang Zhong go to get the tea set, he didn't wait for Zhang Zhong to brew the tea and said, "Drinking tea requires one to be in harmony with the mood and environment. The environment here is not good. Then, should we go to the river? At this time, the riverside is not bad. Some of the grass is yellow, while others are green," Zhang Zhong probed. "Yes, that's right. Look, I even brought the fishing rod." Old Man Pai immediately followed along with Zhang Zhong's words. When he was speaking, his follower came over and showed the fishing rod to Zhang Zhong. When Zhang Zhong saw the fishing rod, he felt sad for Tubo who wanted to fight an economic war. "This is my son." Not only did he see the economic war, but he also had countermeasures. He could even predict Bai Go's reaction in advance and had a follow-up response. "No matter how powerful Tubo is, can you compare to my son's finger? Yes, according to my son's words, I can't beat you to death. This is a true plan of mine. He can predict the enemy first. Plus, he has a daughter-in-law who is good at fighting. It will be easy in the future." Seeing that Old Man Pai's people took out the fishing rod, Zhang Zhong was not surprised. He also took out a set of fishing equipment from the table beside him and said to Bai Go with a smile, "If Master Bai didn't come, I was going to go fishing too. Let's go together. Bring the tea set and go together. I've already prepared the bait. It's enough for 4 people. Therefore, while Old Man Pai and the others were surprised that Zhang Zhong also wanted to go fishing, the 4 of them went to the riverside outside the city. The weather was not bad today. It was not cloudy, and there was no fog. There was a group of children playing upstream. The 4 of them had different thoughts, so they didn't care if the child would affect the fish. Everyone was just fishing for the fish. Zhang Zhong divided the bait and casually threw out the fishing rod. He did not expect any fish to take the bait. He was fishing when he had nothing to do. If he wanted to eat fish, he would just use the net. He still had many things to do. If it was not to learn this kind of special method, he would not have come. Her son and daughter-in-law had said that not all business had to be done in the office. Sometimes, there were more business to be done at the wine table, tea table, card game, and all kinds of leisure and entertainment activities than in a proper place. It was the same even if they went to the brothel together. Of course, he did not want to think about it. He could not do anything to let Xiao down. Besides, his son would not agree. Even if he really found a brothel, he could not expect to be accompanied by a woman. Last time, he was forced to go there. In the end, there was no woman accompanying him. A group of men came out. That time, he saw his son's methods. When he came back, his son looked at him differently. He was wronged. He did not want to find a woman. Even if there was a woman accompanying him, he would not do anything to let Xiao down. Looking at his son's regretful and disappointed eyes, he felt that the sky was dark at that time. Zhang Zhong left behind a sequela. Whenever he was about to talk about business with someone else, he would remember what happened in the past. That one time was enough. If anyone King dragged him to the brothel again, he would fall out with that person. This was because he did not have a woman. If his son could not take care of himself, and a woman came out, how many people would die? Whoever dragged him should go and make arrangements for his funeral. Zhang Zhong's thoughts flew away while he was fishing. Old Man Pai changed the bait a few times, but he still did not catch anything. Thus, he said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongqing, I just realized that fishing is also a skill. You know that the fish are in the water, and you also know that the fish need to eat, but sometimes you are not in a hurry to catch the fish. Just now, I was in a hurry, so the fish did not eat the bait. Don't you think so?" Zhang Zhong also put away his fishing rod and changed the bait. When he heard Old Man Pai's words, he glanced over and thought to himself, "Sure enough, my son was right. This old man likes to play with people when he is fishing. Lord Bai can actually see the skill in fishing. I admire you. I don't know how to fish. I just remembered today. I had nothing to do, so I asked someone to prepare a fishing rod. Maybe it's because the fishing rod is not good. I am not sure." Zhang Zhong followed the steps written by his son. The small book also included this. According to his son, it was because he had been in contact with the fish for a long time and was familiar with it. It was a part of psychology. Old Man Pai waved his hand. Rather than saying that the fishing rod is not good, how can the fishing rod of the Zhong family not be good? Then you won't be able to find a good fishing rod in this world. To put it bluntly, only your father-in-law can come up with a few ideas in this area. It's a pity that you can't go and take a look like him. He hasn't been doing too well recently. When Zhang Zhong heard Old Man Pai mention his father-in-law, there was no longer any hatred in his heart. If there was anything to hate, it would be his own lack of ability. Which father would be willing to give his daughter to a man who was nothing? If Xiao Bao was bad, would the Wang family have let Cuckoo stay in their home? Thus, he said, Lord Taishan is indeed quite free. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo come back, let them go and take a look. Then bring along Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are sensible and won't cause trouble. That's good. This old man has a long tongue. Let me say something. After all, we are a family. The knowledge of fishing is easy to learn, but the knowledge of fishing is not easy to learn. Between people, just like between a man and a fish, there is always the existence of benefits. Or to put it bluntly, it is called seducing each other. Don't you think so? Old Man Pai then changed the topic to fishing. Yes, after hearing what Lord Bai said, it's really like that. Zhong Zhong didn't have a script now. His son didn't expect to mention this matter either. Then Yongqing, what do you think about the economy? Is it the same as fishing? For example, if someone from Tubo wants to do something in this area, do you think he's a fish or a fisherman? Old Man Pai put the bait and threw the hook in. Of course he's a fish. No matter how good Tubo's economic warfare is, it still depends on who the opponent is. It's still too early to be a fisherman. He has to learn. Give him 10 years, and it's already not bad if he can roughly learn it. Does he really think that he is so free in the water and can hide behind other fish to eat the bait? Lord Bai, don't worry. Not all fish are so smart. It's just that it takes a lot of effort for one person to fish. If it's a fish in the water, Lord Bai, Lord Yao, and Uncle Zhang will fish together, then it will be easy. Zhong Zhong was relieved and finally returned to a normal topic. Chapter 634. He rides a bamboo horse, but when he approaches, he falls headfirst. In the courtyard where they lived together, the two young people played without suspicion. When Zhong Zhong accompanied Old Man Pai and the other two to fish, Wang Wan's younger brother rode a bamboo stick and imitated his sister's cavalry. When Xiaobei tied one end of the rope to a rock and held the other end in his hand, he fell. His forehead was bruised and he cried loudly. Xiaobei squatted innocently at the side and said that those who surrendered would not be killed. Wang Wan's younger brother wiped his tears and shook his head. Liar. Those who surrender will die even faster. Xiaobei's group of children caused quite a commotion. The children in the stronghold in Yizhou had already split into groups and started fighting. They took turns to be the Tufan and Tang soldiers. Usually, the Tang soldiers won. If the Tufan army won, they would have to start all over again until they were defeated. How could the Tufan army win? This kind of game originally existed, but now it had a clear position. It was not the officials catching the thieves, but the Tang army fighting against the Tufan army. The commoners did not care about how the children in their homes made a ruckus. As long as they did not cause trouble and played with the other children, it was fine. Occasionally, when they were happy, they would tell the children what they heard about the battle. They would exaggerate and embellish the story. Even the storytelling style used by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan in the Little Pear Garden in Huaiyuan County was copied and told in restaurants and tea shops. The commoners were also willing to listen. Even if they had heard it many times, even if the versions were different, they would still listen attentively and feel comfortable. Gradually, it formed a trend of the whole people resisting the Tufan army. In the past, Blind Huang brought along a granddaughter to sing poems for others to make a living. Every time he raised a granddaughter, he would find a decent person for his granddaughter to marry. After that, he would find another granddaughter in a desolate place to teach her how to sing. In the past 20 years, he had already raised 3 granddaughters. Just as he was preparing to find another granddaughter to sing and earn money, he suddenly discovered the profession of storytelling. He felt that he could also learn how to earn some money. After learning for 2 years, with the knowledge of traveling extensively, he really did learn it. Because there were too many storytellers in the capital, there were only a few jokes that he could tell. Blind Huang, who was determined to find more opportunities, came all the way from the capital to Jiannan Circuit. As he walked, he told jokes, and he really did manage to save up some money. After arriving at this place, he found that there were indeed many stories that he could tell. After inquiring with the commoners who knew the general situation for a few days, he made up his own stories. Narrowing his eyes, he found the Yishui city at the intersection of the Great River and the Yishui River. In the city, there was a restaurant called the Linjiang Restaurant. It was 3 stories high and took up 10 zhang of the street. It was not small, and it was bustling with the noise of carriages and horses. The waiters in charge of welcoming customers were coming in and out of the restaurant. With just a glance, one could tell that the business was good. It was a good place. Blind Huang pondered for a while and decided to tell his stories at this Linjiang restaurant. He rolled his eyes, trying his best to show the whites of his eyes. The stick in his hand was now in front of him, and he slowly walked in. He was secretly worried that the restaurant would not let him in. In the past, he had encountered many situations where he was chased out. However, this restaurant had its own style. It did not matter if you were walking, riding a horse, or sitting in a carriage. It did not matter if you were wearing a brocade robe or a hemp garment. Once you entered, you were a guest. Blind Huang had not even entered the restaurant. He was just walking in when a waiter came over to help him. He looked around and saw that there were no other customers. He shouted for someone to enter the restaurant and arranged for him to stand near the door. When it was time to leave, it would be convenient for him to stand to the side and wait for someone to order something. Usually, the ordinary people who came here would finish their noodles or get a plate of salted beans and a bowl of the worst wine. The waiter felt that this old man was the same. It was impossible that he would go to the third floor and order some exotic delicacies. Blind Huang did not plan to spend money to eat here. No matter what, it was more expensive than other small stalls. It did not matter if the food was good or not. It was fine as long as it could fill his stomach. However, if he did not order anything, what would happen if he was chased out? He could only choose the cheap things. He asked for a plate of salted beans and asked for tea. He did not order anything, meaning that he only wanted to eat a plate of salted beans. The waiter did not care. Even if a plate of salted beans was not enough to buy the tea, he still served it. This tea was not good tea. If one wanted to drink good tea, they had to order something else, the kind that cost money. He also took half a head of garlic and placed it on the table. Eating garlic was a common practice. Many people asked if there was any garlic when they entered. If there was, they would eat it. Blind Huang was a little flattered. He didn't expect that Linjiang restaurant would be able to do business to such an extent. It was almost on par with Shuiyun restaurant in Sanshui County. Over there, no matter what they ordered, even the cheapest 1 copper coin dish would be given 4 small plates. Of course, beggars did not need to go through the front door. They would wait at the back. If there were leftovers, they would naturally bring them. Even if there were times when there were no leftovers, there would be leftovers and a large wooden barrel filled with vegetable soup. In terms of benevolence, Between the Clouds and the Water looked down on its peers. After praising Linjiang restaurant in his heart, Blind Huang reached out and picked up a bean. He threw it into his mouth and tasted it carefully. It was not bad. There was also the fragrance of anise. If only there was a bowl of wine. When the waiter saw that the old man did not order anything else, he turned around and went back to work. He could not be like the third floor, waiting outside the private room at all times. Blind Huang ate a few beans and drank half a bowl of tea. He cleared his throat and slammed his hand on the table, attracting the gazes of the people around him. Only then did he open his mouth and say, "This is the first time I've ever heard of this. I have traveled north and south, crossing 1,000 bridges. There are many things in the world. Immortals are always happy and unfettered. Mortals cry and laugh when they are angry. I have been to Tang to see the rising tide. I have seen the beautiful peonies of the capital. Today, I have come to Jiannandao. Jiannandao is shaken by wind and rain. Tubo invades the border every year. The fog rises and the heart is anxious. Flying cavalry runs below the city walls. Arrows rain from the top of the city walls. Let me tell you about Cuckoo. Tell me about her battle robes at the age of 9. After this opening speech, Blind Huang took another sip of tea. He wanted to give the others time to react. If they knew what he was doing, they would not think that he was crazy. The surrounding people were indeed attracted. The first part of the speech was not bad and was easy to understand. When they heard the last part, they knew that he was going to talk about a heroine. Everyone became spirited and stopped chatting. Those who were drinking also stopped, waiting for this person to continue. Blind Huang's ears twitched. The surrounding people were quiet. He coughed and continued. When Cuckoo was 9 years old, she studied military books diligently. One day, the sound of horses' hooves and flags fluttered. It was the emperor's army. One order was sent to Izhou Prefecture, and the other to the great Tang army. When Cuckoo received the order, she looked to the west. Her heart was worried about the death of 1,000 souls in Shuzhou. She wore a purple tasseled crown on her head, 100 battle robes on her body, cloud boots on her feet, and a swallow ring saber in her hand. Blind Huang stood up as he spoke. He even gestured as he spoke. It seemed that this was really the case. Okay, go on. The surrounding people only listened for a short while before they paid. They did not care whether Wang Wan could really carry the swallow ring saber or not. In any case, they just wanted to praise her. Blind Huang did not expect that after just a few words, someone would pay him. Good, talking about this was better than talking about other things. He was excited. He pulled down his collar and rolled up his sleeves. He did not look like a storyteller, but a butcher. After receiving the order, Cuckoo led people to Pengzhou Pass. At Pengzhou Pass, the west wind blew. Year after year, the wall was dyed with green blood. Cuckoo urged her horse to rush there. 7 days later, she stood facing the pass. At this time, a scout came to report. Guotu's army has been attacked and is trapped in the Great Jinchuan. It is extremely urgent. When Cuckoo heard this, her eyebrows raised. She held the swallow ring saber in front of her and shouted angrily, "Hey! Tubo bullied our great Tang because we have no people. Men, gather the troops and follow this general to Kilb. That is truly the sound of iron hooves suppressing the border. If we don't kill Tubo, we swear we won't return." At this point, Blind Huang paused. No one cheered. They were all waiting for him to continue talking about how Cuckoo killed the enemy. Although the crowd had already heard many versions of the story, they still wanted to hear more. This was especially true for this storyteller. He seemed to be even better at telling the story. Blind Huang continued, that Guotu was originally a valiant general, but unfortunately, he encountered the famous Tubo general. Tu had been beaten until he was at his wits' end. He was about to lead the remaining soldiers to fight to the death with the Tubo army, staining the battlefield red with blood. Suddenly a troop of elite cavalry appeared from the direction of the Great Tang. These elite cavalry trod on one side of the battlefield and looked in another direction. Their spears were like a forest. Their sabers were held horizontally in front of them. They advanced like the wind and struck like thunder. As the saying goes, the general is the soldier's courage, the soldier is the general's soul. How could the Tang armies morale soared and they fought back with all their might. Good, well said. It's the logistics camp in Izhou. We don't need too many powerful soldiers to fight Tufan. The logistics camp is enough. Speak, quick. The audience continued to shout, and the sound of money being thrown increased. It wasn't just the people around Blind Huang who were excited. Even the people who had just entered and heard the last few words were equally excited. Boss Chi, listen, there's another person talking about Cuckoo. This one seems to be better than the others. This time, Cuckoo has really done a great service to the country. Good job killing her. What does Boss Chi think? Among the people who had just entered, one of them asked the person who was standing in front of the crowd. The corner of Boss Chi's mouth twitched. Wei Wei nodded. Good. What a good demoness Cuckoo. What a good Izhou logistics camp. Good job killing her. Chapter 635. Qi Dongjia and his group went straight to the third floor, chose a private room with a view of the river, and sat down. They casually ordered a few dishes, waited for them to be served, and waved the waiter away. Only then did Chi Dongjia retract his gaze from the rolling water outside, and said to everyone, "Everyone, we have to hurry up with the harvest. Otherwise, when others find the opportunity, the money will—" Boss Chi didn't finish his sentence, but everyone knew what he meant. If they couldn't harvest enough, they wouldn't get enough money. Someone sitting next to Boss Chi asked worriedly, "Boss Chi, what if we can't sell the grain after we harvest it? The autumn harvest is in a few days. Usually, we should slow down the harvest. After the autumn harvest, we will continue to harvest. Are you afraid that I don't have enough money?" Boss Chi didn't have any room for negotiation. "That's not it. The money that Boss Chi is putting out is enough to harvest the grain of several states this year. I'm just worried that it won't be easy to sell." The person who spoke just now kindly reminded him. Boss Chi put on a mysterious smile and said, "Of course it won't be easy to sell the grain, but I have a method to turn the grain into something else. When the time comes, I will have to rely on you." Well said, well said. Since Boss Chi has a plan, we will harvest enough grain. As for the higher-ups investigating, if someone investigates, I will do my best. Don't worry, I have already arranged everything. After we harvest the grain, we will all be rich together. Come, drink. Boss Chi said confidently to everyone. He raised his cup and drank with everyone. Zhong Zhong was still fishing by the river. He didn't catch a single big fish, only a few small fish. He estimated that 4 people's fish would be enough to make fish soup for the little ones. If they wanted to eat braised fish, they would have to wait until they were big enough. Old Man Pai changed the bait once. With a shake of his wrist, he threw the hook into the river. He looked at the children bathing upstream and said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongqing, since we are going to fish together, shouldn't we go upstream?" "Lord Bai, you must be joking. It's just a fish, so there's no need to go so far. The middle reaches will do. There should be some children in the middle reaches who can't resist the temptation and help the fish hide. They might even release the fish that is hooked. Lord Bai, you just need to control the children in the middle reaches. I'll do the work in the lower reaches." Zhong Zhong said to Old Man Bai as he retracted his pole and pinched the hook in his hand. The bait had been eaten and the fish had not been caught. Old Man Pai looked at Zhong Zhong in surprise. When did Zhong Zhong learn to speak like this? Moreover, from their words, it could be heard that the Zhong family didn't care at all this time. They seemed to be very confident. Could it be that the Tubo people were so easy to deal with? Or could it be that the ability of the master of the Zhong family had reached an unfathomable level? Zhong Zhong seemed to have seen through Old Man Pai's thoughts and said, "This time, Xiao Bao will be in charge. It's time for him to train. It's just that the Shui Yun is flying here and there. I'm afraid that it will delay the battle over there. When the other hunters come over, send a few more. Although they can't be compared to the Shui Yun, they can still help to check the enemy's situation." Xiao Bao. He's in charge? Could it be? Old Man Pai was shocked. He was worried that something had happened to the master of the Zhong family. Did he feel that he couldn't do it and wanted to test Cuckoo and Xiao Bao in advance? Once the 2 kids succeed, the expert can rest assured and leave. This wouldn't do. The master had done a lot for the Tang Empire. No matter what, he had to have a title and be conferred a title. Moreover, he hadn't met the master yet. Even if he met him once, it would be fine. Zhong Zhong understood the meaning behind Old Man Pai's words and sighed in his heart. How could there be a master? The masters of the Zhong family and Wang family had all gone to the front line. If there really was a master, why would Xiao Bao be in charge from so far away? He had to fight with Cuckoo and take care of this place at the same time. Only Xiao Bao and Cuckoo could do this. If it were someone else, even an adult wouldn't be able to bear it, let alone a child. Old Man Pai saw that Zhong Zhong didn't want to continue, so he had to change the topic. He asked, "Half of the Yongqing family's inner court has gone to Pengzhou. Do you still need more people?" "Yes, but the people in Lord Bai and Lord Yao's family are not enough. This time, we need to transfer people from Sanshui County. Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng are urgently transferred over. Together with Su Si, the three of them are enough to deal with the Tibetans. Zhang Zhong didn't expect that in his son's letter, he would ask for those two people to be transferred over. What was the use of those two people? Old man Pai knew of Su Si. Back then, he was in charge of setting the price at the market beside the Wang family's river. In the past, the Gu family was a very ordinary farmer in Zhuangzi. He wasn't valued by the Gu family. However, when it came to the Zhang family, it was different. He never did anything that was assigned to him. The Zhang family's ability to judge people was also extraordinary. Today, the two people that were transferred over through the military station were perhaps the other trump cards of the Zhang family, just like Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang. Who would have thought that the two people sent by Song Jinggong would be so powerful? Not to mention searching for people, just the two of them, 2 dogs, and 1 eagle were able to find Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They actually killed 290 Tibetans and seized 285 horses. Looking at the situation, the other two people were also transferred over at the crucial time. Otherwise, why didn't they transfer Song Jinggong? Song Jinggong was in charge of a region, so there was no doubt about his ability. Who knew how many more people like him the Zhang family had that hadn't been revealed? They were really well hidden. Old man Yao listened at the side. What he was most concerned about was whether this mission was really controlled by Xiao Bao from a distance. If they really won, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo returned, would they continue to be idle like they had nothing to do, or would they be given actual positions? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were second-level nominal positions, one for civil affairs and one for military affairs. Zhang Zhong's position should also be raised. Otherwise, it wouldn't be right for an adult to have a lower position than his 9-year-old son. Old man Yao thought about it and really couldn't understand at the moment. He might as well let others worry about it. He asked Zhang Zhong, Yongqing, when will the real fishing begin? It's better to have a detailed plan. We'll start right away. I'll give you the plan later. Xiao Bao has already done it. Please help me take a look and see if there's anything missing. The child is still young, so he might not have thought it through. Zhang Zhong's goal was achieved, so he didn't want to fish anymore. He put away his pole and left. He even said a few words of modesty for his son. He didn't believe that the 3 old men would be able to see any problems with his son's plan. He had already looked at it, but he didn't understand it. He would have to wait for the next plan to come back. 2 pigeons spread their wings and flew towards the capital to get Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng. When they passed by the capital, they had to ask if anything had happened in the imperial court. There probably weren't any rewards, so those people were too stingy. The sky gradually darkened, and the wind grew stronger. Wang Wan went to observe the terrain last night. She didn't find any good ideas. The 2 tribes of Tubo actually kept a little distance from each other. They didn't even send out scouts. They just followed the traces left behind. If they wanted to attack, it was like facing a turtle. They couldn't find a place to attack. Wang Wan didn't want to use less than 10,000 people to charge head-on. Although she hoped that others would use normal methods to fight, she didn't like it. There were too many people who died in a head-on battle. Unless they were forced to the point of no return, they could only face the enemy head-on. Otherwise, she preferred to plan slowly. She would eat a little bit at a time. When she ate more than enough, it would be enough. She would use guerrilla warfare to fight. Of course, at this time, if there were dozens of large copper cannons on the naval gunboats, she would dare to attack the Tubo cavalry under the cover of the cannons. With the cannons moving forward and the cavalry's speed, it would be too easy for them to charge at the infantry. Now that the sky had darkened and the wind had gotten stronger, Wang Wan went to observe the terrain again. Opportunity. Any change in the weather was an opportunity for the troops in battle. It just depended on whether they could grasp it. According to their current speed, they would arrive at the desert in 4 days. Wang Wan stood on a very small hill and observed the terrain. Zhang Xiaobao squatted beside her and dug for wild vegetables. There weren't many wild vegetables in the autumn, but it couldn't be compared to the ones in the spring. Zhang Xiaobao said more than once that if it was spring, he could make a small root vegetable for Wang Wan. It would taste very fresh with cat's ear soup. Wang Wan looked for a while and was very disappointed. The hill was too short, and it was difficult to grasp the overall situation. She turned her head and shouted to Zhang Ying, who was at the foot of the hill, "Call Shui Yun over. Catch me and take me to the sky to have a look." Zhang Ying was a little worried, but he still made a net with a leather rope and sent it to Wang Wan. He let Wang Wan put it on, tied a piece of wood to the leather rope, and called Shui Yun to catch her. Shui Yun was indeed obedient and did what it was told. It didn't know how it communicated with Zhang Ying, but it flew up and slowly swooped down to catch Wang Wan. Wang Wan held the binoculars in one hand and grabbed Shui Yun's foot with the other. She was afraid that Shui Yun would be happy and let go of its claws. One person and one eagle flew up and hovered high in the sky. Wang Wan's field of vision widened, and she looked left and right happily. After a while, she put away the binoculars, took out a piece of cloth from her body, and threw it out. Zhang Ying saw the cloth and whistled. Shui Yun slowly swooped down again. When Wang Wan's foot was about to touch the ground, it let go of its claws. Wang Wan rolled forward with the force, jumped up and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "It's flying. They're flying. How satisfying. If I were to raise 100 of these eagles, wouldn't I be able to form an aerial unit? I think that if we can find a way to find more than 100 Shui Yun, it's better to spend the energy on research. Maybe we can even build an airplane. Have you thought of how to scheme against people?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at the Shui Yun that had landed on Zhang Ying's shoulder and was rubbing its head against his face. He dispelled Wang Wan's unrealistic fantasy. "I thought of it. It's going to rain, and the traces on the ground will be obvious when it rains. We were prepared and knew in advance that we were going to the desert, so we brought a lot of supplies. There are 40,000 people in Tubo, and they didn't steal as many horses as we did. How much food can they bring with them? Didn't you want to use salt to pickle vegetables? Now we have it." Wang Wan patted the dust on her body and said to Zhang Xiaobao. Chapter 636. Kimu Kahu brought his men and followed the others. After a few days of traveling, he didn't notice anything. He didn't know why, but the calmer the Tang army was, the more worried he got. It was just like when the Tang army was hiding in the village. Once it was ready, when the time was right, the Tang army would give him a ruthless blow. He could be considered to have met that female general, Wan Wan. Perhaps the little girl had been able to fantasize about all of those strategies. Thinking back to it, it was like a dream. Now that there was no movement for a few days, it was probably going to be troublesome. The sky was also dark. Could it be that they wanted to attack in the rain? No, he had to find someone to talk to in case he fell for it. After thinking about it, Kimu Kahu went to Lufu Tuta. Lufu Tuta was busy with the cavalry training. When he saw Kimu Kahu, he seemed a little embarrassed. He pulled Kimu Kahu into the tent. "Lufu Tuta, don't tell me you want to follow what I said and send light cavalry to attack the Tang army?" "No, it's too late now." "Definitely not. If you want to attack, you have to wait for the rain to stop. That little brat likes to use all kinds of terrain and weather to attack. She can find an opportunity when there's fog or when the weather is hot. Listen to me, don't think about attacking her now. Continue to shrink your troops and slow down your marching speed. Increase the distance between you and her. After the rain passes, we can talk about other tactics. Also, it's best to send someone to take care of the logistics." Kimu Kahu knew what the other party was thinking. He wanted to bring the cavalry out, but the other party didn't agree. Now he was actually doing it secretly. Sigh. "It's fine if you want to take credit, but not now." Lufu Tuta was pointed out by others and felt a little embarrassed. When he heard that Kimu Kahu stopped him, he thought that Kimu Kahu was afraid that he would succeed. In the end, he gave the idea for nothing. If he listened to him, he would be a fool. When he said it was fine, why couldn't he do it? "I have my own plans for this matter. Are you used to living here?" Why don't we get someone to carry you around? That will be more comfortable. Lufu Tuta looked around and said to Kimu Kahu. He seemed to be very friendly, but his attitude of keeping people at arm's length was obvious. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Lufu Tuta. Since that's the case, I'll head back first. Seeing that the other party didn't listen to him, couldn't do anything. If it were him, he wouldn't listen to others either. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough people in his camp and couldn't do anything. Otherwise, he would think of something. After sending Kamyuk out of the tent and watching him leave, Lufu Tuta laughed coldly and said to the people beside him, "Did you see that? This is a power struggle. He pretends to be kind, but in fact, he is not. Pass down the order." Tonight, the cavalry will attack in the rain. ***********. The heavy rain made the originally dry ground muddy. It was just evening, and the sky was so dark that it was hard to see far away. Lufu Tuta's cavalry was ready. At this moment, the people in front of the team who were carefully observing the tracks suddenly ran over. The Tang army increased their speed. From the distance between the horses' footprints and the people's footprints, especially the people's footprints, the distance between every 2 steps was larger, indicating that they were running. Ran away. Chase after them, order everyone to run and chase after them. The cavalry don't attack first, it will waste the horses in the rain. Hearing that the Tang army increased their speed, Lufu Tuta immediately ordered the troops to follow. When it was midnight, Lufu Tuta realized that the Tang army had not stopped. Lufu Tuta could not let the soldiers continue chasing. He did not want the Tang army to take advantage of the fact that they were exhausted to get down from their horses. Lufu Tuta's troops were already too far away from the other troops and it would be easy for something to happen. Lufu Tuta's troops stopped, but the Tang army continued to rush forward. After running for another 2 hours, more than 2,000 people were left to rest. The cavalry and horses went elsewhere. The road was difficult, and the cavalry couldn't increase their speed. The horses were almost exhausted, but the troops continued to force their way forward. Luckily, they didn't need to carry many people, and most of them had already dismounted and left. When the Tibetan team continued to move forward at dawn, the logistics team that was not too far behind also arrived at the hill where Wang Wan stood yesterday. In the heavy rain, the people from the logistics team moved even slower, but they did not dare to waste time and could only force their way forward. Yesterday, they had to put up a cloth to block the rain for the rations and take care of the horses. All of them were exhausted. They only rested for 4 hours at night, and they had to hurry again at dawn. What if something happened in front of them and they pushed the blame to the logistics troops? Sunny rode in the front and looked back at his troops. Many of the 2,000 men nodded after every step they took, as if they wanted to sleep. He looked at the ditches in front of him and the potholes in front of him. He did not know whether to curse the heavens or the troops in front of him for moving so fast. Sunny did not know whether to curse the heavens or the troops in front of him. "Hurry up, it'll be fine when we catch up with the troops in front. What are we doing here? It's all potholes. Carry people, carry the carts over. Are we just waiting for the horses to pull the carts over?" Sang Er shouted at his men when he saw the carts getting stuck in the potholes one after another. The 2,000 soldiers in charge of transporting the carts had to pull at the front and push at the back. They had to lift and carry the carts so that the troops could move forward slowly. It took them an hour to get past the hill. Just like that, the troops behind them and their carts got stuck in the potholes from time to time. After another 15 minutes, all the carts reached a relatively flat area. The 2,000 logistics troops were so tired that they couldn't stand properly. Sang Er had no choice but to order, "Rest for an hour. Damn the weather. Fix the broken carts quickly. Don't waste our time." Hearing his words, everyone relaxed at the same time. But at that moment, countless people rushed out from behind the hill they had just passed. Fire arrows rained down on the carts. When some of the carts were on fire and some were smoking, the usual rain of arrows fell on the 2,000 logistics troops. The logisticians were stunned by the sudden attack, and Sunny Ring was the first to be shot dead. More than 10 arrows pierced into his body at almost the same time. After losing their commander and being ambushed, the logisticians started to fight on their own. Some of them crouched on the ground to avoid the rain of arrows, some picked up their weapons and ran towards the direction where the arrows came from, some ran in another direction, and some just stood there, waiting to be killed. Wang Wan personally commanded the troops to attack. There were more than 6,000 people here. They hid for a while before the rain started. The horses continued to run. In the rain, it was hard to see the depth of the horses' hooves. It was impossible to determine how many things were on the horses' hooves. With the rain washing away, the traces disappeared. She waited for the rain for this opportunity. As expected, the main force of the Tubo troops went to chase after their horses. The logistics troops had to stay behind. How much food was sent to 40,000 people at once? When Lufututa was still looking for a chance to send his cavalry to attack, the sky behind them was covered in thick smoke. Even from so far away, they could clearly see the sky formed by the smoke. Another Tubo troop that was slightly slower was the first to notice the situation. The first thought that came to their mind was that the logistics troops were attacked by the enemy. They sent out 2,000 cavalrymen to check. In the end, the wind was blowing in their direction. The people who came over were all in tears from the smoke. Not only were the people uncomfortable, but the horses couldn't stand it either. However, they had to come. When they rushed over, they saw the burning carts and the corpses of their brothers. Some of the corpses were very far away. They ran for more than 2 miles, but they were still killed in the same place. Blood mixed with mud. The thick smell of blood was nauseating. They didn't see the enemy and didn't know where the enemy was. The leader of the cavalrymen shouted, "Put out the fire. Use the mud on the ground to cover the carts. Don't let all the food burn up." The 2,000 cavalrymen endured the pain in their eyes and dismounted from their horses. They used their hands to throw the mud mixed with blood onto the smoking carts. After throwing the mud for a while, Wang Wan led her men out from the back of the mountain. She also shot a rain of arrows to protect the new cavalrymen. The water cloud continued to hover in the sky, in charge of monitoring the movements of the other Tubo troops. This time, the cavalrymen weren't completely wiped out. More than 200 of them rode back and escaped. In the end, they encountered more than 600 people and 8,000 horses of the Tang army. The Tang army seemed to have been prepared. A large portion of the 200 people were killed and the rest took a detour. The Tang army didn't chase after them. They rushed to Wang Wan's side and let Wang Wan lead the men to chase after the escaping cavalrymen. After chasing for a while, the water cloud fell. The troops changed their direction again and went through the empty space between the two Tubo troops. This made Wang Wan very surprised. She initially planned to take a detour and go around the two Tubo troops together. She didn't expect Lufututa to forcefully move his troops and create some distance between them. This saved them a lot of time. Lufututa looked at the thick smoke behind him and was dumbfounded. Not to mention the general, even a normal soldier would understand what was going on. The army provisions were being attacked, and they had to scrimp and save for their meals. Camus also stood there and looked at the smoke in the sky. He didn't feel surprised at all. He muttered, "I was right? The demon fiend is the demon fiend. We can't give her any chance. She can make use of anything. The terrain, the weather, and the enemy's formation. When dealing with her, we can't think of how to defeat her. Instead, we have to think of how to defend ourselves. Even if our troops are 4 times stronger than her, we have to defend like an iron bucket. As long as we can force her away, we will win." On the other side, Mumu Kushu's men had already returned to the camp. He told them about the attack and the ambush on his side. Mumu Kushu immediately ordered his men to defend and gave up on extinguishing the fire. He was also afraid that once they split up, they would be tricked by that little girl. Lufututa sent men back to take a look and didn't rush forward. He was prepared to wait for the other division to come and discuss what to do next. Now, they weren't forcing the Tang army to enter the desert. Instead, they were thinking of how to prevent the Tang army from killing them. Chapter 637. The world of mortals is bitter, disputes never stop, flowers bloom and wilt, autumn comes and leaves fall, cold and hot. If one does not admit defeat, how can there be evergreen trees, dancing in the clouds, looking back on the past to remember? Kill! The moment the order was given, countless arrows flew towards the Tubo Luftuta's tribe. The Tubo people immediately raised their shields and hid behind, hoping that they were not the unlucky ones. Ever since Luftuta's army was ambushed yesterday, he had already dispelled the idea of sending cavalry to the front to attack the Tang army. Their morale was gone, and no matter how they thought about it, they could not win against the Tang army. The fire and passion in the soldiers had also been extinguished. They clearly knew that there was a lass in the Tang army that humiliated the entire country, but so what? There was nothing they could do, they could not chase after her, they could not hit her. As long as they tried to trick her, there would be a loophole in their side. The lass would not let go of any opportunity. They could still hold on if they hid, but once the battle formation changed, they would definitely be used. At most, the troops would advance a little faster, and in the end, the logistics would be ambushed. The Tubo soldiers felt very sad. It was not that they were afraid of death and did not charge, but as a general, you should at least give them a chance to charge. It felt like they had met a strong opponent when playing polo. The opponent was clearly one man and one horse breaking through, but they could only retreat step by step. Even if the ball was right in front of them, they did not dare to use their poles. If they used their poles, they would be overtaken. Luftutta saw that the opponent would take away hundreds of people every time they attacked, and he felt more and more frustrated. He could not think of a solution, so he could only look for Kumu-ku-hu, who was more accurate with his words. Kumu-ku-hu's heart had long been numb. He watched the Tang army come and go like the wind. Every time the enemy attacked, they would attack from the direction of the wind. Whenever they were happy, they would come back and shoot another round. If there was a weakness before yesterday, it was that the Tang army did not have enough horses. There had to be someone running below. After Mumu-hushu's cavalry was dealt with yesterday, the Tang army still had some men and horses left. The supplies that they sent over were all taken away by the Tang army. The bows that the Tang army used were from Tubo, the arrows that they used were from Tubo, the rice that they ate was from Tubo, and the horses that they rode were from Tubo. There was no need to continue this war. In the future, as long as the Tang Empire had Kuku, Tubo would not dare to invade their borders. Just as Camus and Ku, who were sighing in their hearts that they were the ones who made Wang Wan famous, Luftutta came looking for them. Kumu-ku-hu, I regret not listening to you. The Tang army is indeed good at sneak attacks. If we were to face them head-on, I am confident that I can defeat them. Quick, give me an idea. Luftutta was still unwilling to admit that he could not win against the enemy's general. He attributed the victory to the enemy's sneak attack tactics and hoped that Camus-ku could give him a good idea. Let's retreat and let the stronger people come over. Or we can withdraw our troops and enter the city to defend. Our 40,000 men are not a match for her. If she really leads the Tang army to face us head-on, we won't be able to return even if we want to. According to the new information, Pengzhou is preparing to leave the pass at any time. There won't be any reinforcements from other places. There won't be many people escorting the provisions. If they can sneak attack once, they can do it again. Unless one group follows behind and the other group supports the supply team. Let's retreat, both groups retreat at the same time. Don't give her a chance. Kumu-ku, who analyzed the situation in front of them and gave such an idea. Of course, Luftutta was unwilling to listen. We are being attacked by less than 10,000 Tang soldiers and we have to abandon our defenses? If the Tang army sends out 100,000 soldiers, won't our Tubo be destroyed? No, definitely not. Wouldn't that be admitting to a little girl that we, Tubo, won't dare to do it again? Kumu-ku, are you scared after being beaten? Yes, I'm afraid. I really don't dare to fight against them unless I have a more elite team and use soldiers to make up for the lack of generals. If you still want to fight against them, then stop and wait for the logistics. Let them shoot. When they run out of arrows, then slowly follow behind them. The two units must not be separated. Ku who nodded in agreement. He was very clear that he could not compare to the little girl in terms of scheming. To deal with such an opponent, they could only rely on numbers and steadily advance. They must not have any devious thoughts. The Tubo people were hesitating. Wang Wan was much more relaxed. Everyone had a horse and they could fight and run as they wished. Although the enemy scolded them and said that they did not have the guts, so what? She was still a child. Adults should not lower themselves to the same level as a child and should protect her. Zhang Xiaobao was still in charge of cooking. He caught a few wild boars and let him use the salt he stole to marinate them. He was going to make ham and bring it back for his family to try. He wanted to see if the taste of the Tubo wild boar's ham was different. After seeing Wang Wan happily studying the map, he kept it and said to Wang Wan, "I am going to write a letter back and ask the imperial court to help spread the news that the one commanding the front lines is not the 9-year-old Wang Wan but someone else. Wang Wan is just trying to anger the Tubo army. What do you think?" "Sure, I know. You don't want to push me up now. If that happens, our peaceful life will be gone. At the very least, we can't let the people talk about us all the time. Don't worry, I don't want to be Wu Zetian or Empress Dowager Xiao. My goal is not to be like them, dancing on the tip of the blade and contending with the various powers. I want to hide behind and make Tang Empire stronger and stronger together with you. Some people like to be heroes and some people are willing to create heroes. I belong to the latter. What about you? When we go back, what do you want to do?" Wang Wan understood the meaning behind Zhang Xiaobao's words, and she agreed. If one pushed one's position too high, one would sometimes lose sight of one's original ideals. In order to maintain one's position, one would have to pay too great a price. At that time, although many people still knew of one's abilities, the people of the Great Tang would gradually forget about it, and one would be able to return to their original lives. "Me? I haven't thought about it yet. I want to make a county with you. I will be the county magistrate and you will be the chief registrar. Let's wait for a few years. When Tang Empire's economy is prosperous, we will find a new way. Wars with foreign countries are inevitable. Otherwise, when the material life is good, people's pursuit will increase and the internal pressure will be too great." Zhang Xiaobao did not have a definite plan. He needed to wait for the imperial court's attitude to make a decision. Wang Wan nodded. "Then when the time comes, we will find a poor county and slowly govern it. I don't think it will work. Let's talk about the future later. First, help me analyze the current situation. They are like turtles. They are too annoying." The weather gradually turned cold. The people who worked in the fields began to prepare their tools, waiting for the autumn harvest. The commoners in Izhou's stronghold were much more relaxed than the commoners outside. There was only so much land that could be used for farming. They would be content if they collected enough to eat for a year. There was no shortage of salt at home, and there was enough cloth to make clothes. The children had more candy in their hands, and the women had more jewelry. The men organized to go to the snow mountain with Governor Zhang to build a ski resort. The businessmen who came to participate in the investment also sent money to Izhou. Each of them was given a membership card. With this card, they could enjoy a 50% discount. Spending was spending, profit was profit. They could not enjoy it for free just because they had invested money. Originally, not many people really wanted to come to this place for recreation. The sport of skiing had not yet become popular. Who would be willing to come to the mountain to suffer from the cold? They could not stand the reputation of Bai Go and Yao Chong. They also wanted to make friends with Zhang Zhong. However, when they saw people demonstrating skis and sledges on the mountain, and the laughter of adults and children, they felt that this place was not bad. Especially when they were tired, they could take a hot bath and have someone massage them. Their whole body would feel comfortable from inside out. At the same time, there was a place for hunting in the ski resort. There were many kinds of wild animals on the mountain. With the local people protecting them, there was no need to worry about accidentally dying. Zhang Zhong organized people to build a restaurant at the top of the mountain and at the bottom of the mountain. It was in the form of a self-service restaurant. There were corresponding well-enclosed suites for people to discuss secret matters. He did not even refuse the people from the brothel when they came to cooperate. The ski resort also adopted a membership system. It seemed that people who came to the resort would not just pay the fee to play. They had to be members first. After paying the annual fee, part of it would be used to manage the resort, and part of it would be deducted when they played. The membership card was also different from other places. It was made of tortoiseshell, and it showed one's identity when one held it in one's hand. Zhang Zhong also asked people to secretly advertise that the really rich and the really rich people would not like to look for lively places to eat, drink, and play like bumpkins. Zhang Zhong himself liked to go to lively places very much. He did not want the so-called identity that was flattered. He was independent of the circle that others had set for him, and he was aloof. Then Zhang Zhong started to build a winery. It was a very big winery. Before the wine was brewed, the reputation would be built first. A lot of money was spent. He did not need to recruit people who had experience in brewing wine. He first trained them, and during the training process, he would also get a salary. Naturally, the winery needed to have things to brew wine. Zhang Zhong and Wang raised a lot of money and prepared to buy food. After the autumn harvest, they first talked to the people and ordered the food. The price was much higher than the current price. A bushel of wheat was 30 copper coins, and a bushel of rice was 45 copper coins. The price of other things was also increased. But at this time, the imperial court suddenly issued an imperial edict, ordering Zhang Zhong to prepare money, to build roads from Yizhou to Yizhou, and to strengthen and widen the roads connecting to Yizhou. It was not known who leaked this imperial edict, but many people knew about it. Zhang Zhong was dumbfounded. He immediately stopped the winery and began to transfer money from other places to Yizhou. It was estimated that it would take at least 4 months to escort the grain from the capital to Yizhou. Zhang Zhong was helpless. He borrowed money from merchants and used his family's assets as collateral. At the same time, he went to talk to the people who had agreed to harvest the autumn harvest. He delayed it until 1 month after the autumn harvest. He bought the grain at the price of 35 copper coins per bushel of wheat and 50 copper coins per bushel of rice. He also wrote a written agreement. If the people did not accept the grain at that time, he would compensate the people half of the money and use the ski resort shares as collateral. Chapter 638. On the road from the capital to Jiannan Lai, 3 riders were riding through the dust. One of them looked much weaker. He was leaning on the horse, and his face was pale. The other 2 were a man and a woman. They looked much better than this person. They didn't look tired, and their bodies followed the rhythm of the horse, making it easier for the horse to run. However, the 3 of them didn't speak. They urged their horses forward. After an hour, they came to a stop and changed horses. The one with the weaker physique sat down on the ground. He tried to struggle to stand up but to no avail. He said to the other 2, "You guys go first. I can't take it anymore. I need to take a break. You guys can make arrangements when you arrive. You're a man, but you're not as good as a woman? You're holding us up," the woman said to the man sitting on the ground. "Look at you. How are you a woman? When you do things, you're a tomboy. I told you not to come, but you insisted. It's useless." The man was not happy. "Han Xianfeng, is this how you treat someone who saved your life? If I didn't use acupuncture and medicine to save you, you'd be dead. You need to know how to repay kindness." The woman turned her head and said to Han Xianfeng. Han Xianfeng let out a long sigh. There was nothing he could do, so he didn't hurry. He sat down next to that person and said, "Mi Fan, I'll remember this. If there's a chance in the future, I'll force you to train. Tell me, how many things have you delayed? I don't know why the young master called you here. Am I good? Yesterday, when we were on the road, I reminded you first. That's why you didn't fall into the ditch. You're ungrateful." Mi Fan panted heavily for a while. She rubbed her hand gently on her leg and grimaced in pain as she drank some water. Yes, ungrateful. Han Xianfeng, we're talking about you. You don't even care about saving your life. Are you still a man? The woman next to him found an opportunity to scold Han Xianfeng. Han Xianfeng looked up at the sky and said helplessly, Jiu Mei Lang, I beg you. Don't keep talking about saving my life. I was just tired from the boat race. That was Sanshui County's Xiao Luo Shui. How could I die? Not to mention exhaustion, even if he was really injured, would there not be a good doctor? I managed to dock the boat with great difficulty and wanted to find a car to take me to get a massage, but you jumped out from the side. Without saying anything, you pushed me to the ground and stabbed me with several needles. I don't even know where you got the medicine and forced it down my mouth. Nonsense, I'm a famous doctor who is proficient in both the pen and the sword. I picked the medicine myself and specially used it to treat fainting spells. My medical skills are definitely high, otherwise, how could you be awake when I was performing acupuncture on you? Jiu Mei's cold face reddened slightly, but she continued to argue. I want to close my eyes and rest for a while. You're pricking me so much that my whole body hurts. How can I not wake up? And that medicine, why would it treat fainting? It's more like it's for intestinal blockage. The strength that I saved up after resting with great difficulty was all thrown to the toilet. If your medical skills are high, why don't you go to Huayuan County's Dai Hospital to find a job? Why do you insist on following me? When Han Xianfeng thought about what happened that day, his face turned as pale as Mi Fan's, and his body trembled. It must have left a deep impression on him. Jiu Mei touched the bag on her back, which contained her needles and herbs. She said embarrassedly, Who said that I didn't go to Dai Hospital? But they said that I still needed to practice. They asked me to go to Yawang Mountain to massage others and identify the acupuncture points. I'm a woman, so how can I go there? I wanted to practice slowly. I walked all the way, looking for patients, and then I met you. I saved you out of kindness, and I heard that you were close to the Zhang family. I was hoping that you would arrange for me to go to Huayuan Hospital when you repay my kindness. Who would have thought that you're such an ungrateful person? Fine, I'm scared of you. Don't mention saving lives. I don't have the ability to arrange for you to go to Dai Hospital. They don't hire people based on personal relationships. With your medical skills, even if you sneak in, how many patients will you kill, let alone take a normal exam? Han Xianfeng was tortured to death. If Jiu Mei Lang wasn't alone and didn't have a family, and if she hadn't been observed by the Zhang family spies, and if they hadn't found out that she had other skills, they would never have allowed her to follow them. This woman was indeed good-looking, especially her figure. If she didn't always wear a dirt-gray robe and change into other colors, many men would definitely yearn for her. But this woman was always muddle-headed. Her so-called medical skills could have become a nickname in some county in the past, but she insisted on going to Huayuan County and Sanshui County to treat patients. What were those two places for? Sanshui County was the foundation of the Zhang family and Wang family. Han Xianfeng only joined the first family in Linshui County after passing the test. He was the son of an official and didn't give any face during the test. How could the medical standards there be bad? As for Huayuan County's Dai Hospital, it was the pinnacle of the Tang Dynasty's medical science. Even the imperial doctors in the palace had to go there frequently to communicate. Every year, they would be tested to decide whether to stay in the palace or not. What could a half-baked doctor like you do in such a place? At this time, Mi Fan said something fair. Mrs. Jiu, actually there's nothing wrong with massaging. Doctors shouldn't discriminate between men and women. In the eyes of doctors, there are only healthy people and patients. Dai Hospital wants to give all ordinary doctors a chance. Going there to give massages requires skill. After you go there, remember the acupuncture points clearly. After passing the test, you might have a chance to enter the medical school to study. The research there is unparalleled in the world. This time, I didn't want you to come, but when I saw you, I suddenly felt that you might have other benefits, so. Xian Feng, look at him. He's flirting with me. Listen to him, he wants to get benefits from me. I'm a woman, what benefits do I have? Won't you help me? Then you're ungrateful. Mi Fan, how could you flirt with Zhou Meiling? Come, let's get on the horses and have 100 rounds. Han Xianfeng was scared. Before Zhou Meiling could finish, he helped Mi Fan, who had rested for a while, onto a horse. The two rode off first. Zhou Meiling stood where she was, tilting her head and thinking. She also pulled over a horse and mounted it. She was much faster than Han Xianfeng and Mi Fan. After 100 feet, she reacted and shouted, Han Xianfeng, stop right there. How dare you lie to me? What skills do I have to be chosen by Mi Fan? Medical skills. Humph, you want to get rid of me? In your dreams. My horse can only run 6 steps in one breath. The one you control can only run 5.5 steps. The distance is about 120 feet. This military horse can run 6 feet per step. In 400 breaths, I'll catch up to you. Maozhou, Tunghua County was a small county. There were not many people coming and going. The local people also lived their own lives. Everyone spent time traveling to the county every day. However, such a small county was always bustling at the middle and beginning of each month. People who came from neighboring counties and from further places all came early because there were a few horse companies here that specialized in buying and selling horses. Whether it was buying or selling horses, if one's eyes were sharp enough and his mouth was sharp enough, he could achieve his goal. There were so many horse companies here. Some were bought from other counties, and some seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. No one knew whether it was because no one was willing to investigate or because they didn't want to. That was how the horse companies in Tunghua County survived. There were dozens of small horse companies, but not 100. Many horse companies didn't have fixed positions. As long as you brought in a dozen horses at one time, others would admit that you were a horse company. There were 4 largest horse companies here. They were named East, West, North, and South. The one named East was called Donghua Horse Company, and so were the others. The 4 horse companies competed with each other, but at the same time, they worked together. Among them, Donghua Horse Company seemed to be the leader. The owner of Donghua Horse Company was surnamed Yen. It was said that he had fled here 30 years ago. At that time, he was alone with a 6-year-old son. He had the ability to identify horses. At first, he looked after the livestock for the local people. Later, he found horses from other places and sold them here. Little by little, his family business was established. 15 years ago, his son married the daughter of a local rich family, and Donghua Horse Company was established. Over the past 15 years, the Ma Trading Company had grown bigger and bigger. Not only did Master Yen own the business, but he had also taught 3 of his disciples. They had all established their own businesses, and were the owners of the other 3 Ma Trading Companies. Most outsiders would not know what was going on inside. Identifying a horse was a skill. If you didn't know how to identify a horse, it was obviously a bad one. Even if you spent the money on a good one, no one would refund you. As time passed, more and more people could tell whether a horse was good or bad. Tonghua's 4-family horse company came up with a new strategy. Horse gambling was only open for about 2 hours. In the morning, before the sun rose, someone would prepare many horses in the shed. If they liked one, they would pay and take it away. Every horse was the same price, priced at 20 strings of coins. Some people had good eyesight or good luck. They bought a fine horse and became rich overnight. More people bought an ordinary horse, or even a sick horse. Ordinary horses had 10 strings of coins, and some had a few strings of coins. They could only pull carriages. As for a sick horse, if it was cured, it could be sold for a little money. If it could not be cured, it was not worth a single cent. Today was the first day of the new moon. Those who came last night, or even earlier, waited outside the stable before dawn, hoping that they would be lucky enough to get a good horse. The people of the horse company were also prepared. They looked at the sky and gave orders. The road to the stable was opened, and everyone rushed in like a tide. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.